Chapter 1683. Little girl, I'll give you a chance. Surrender and join the Heavenly Divinity sect, and I'll let you go. Kai Ying said calmly. He was too embarrassed to kill a little girl like her. No, no. Su Lei shook her head vigorously and said, I won't surrender. I'm a disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley. I told you not to go too far because I don't want to kill you. What? Many people were dumbfounded. Su Lei said not to go too far because she was afraid that Kai Ying would be killed. Many people shook their heads and laughed. Kai Ying was the top-notch genius at the Treasure Ding Ding small gathering. Unless it was the demon Lu Ming from 3 years ago, no one would be able to kill Kai Ying. At most, they would be able to defeat him. Little girl, you're just pretending to be innocent. You're courting death. Kai Ying was enraged and his eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. He thought that Su Lei was playing with him. Swoosh! Kai Ying's body flashed and he threw a palm at Su Lei. A huge yellow palm pressed down on Su Lei. Kai Ying didn't practice the sacred cultivation technique of the Heavenly Divinity sect, but something else. A dragon's roar came from Su Lei's body. Then, Su Lei threw a palm out. Boom! Su Lei's small hand slapped against the large brown hand. The large brown hand seemed to have been frozen by a gust of cold air. With a bang, it shattered. Mountain-crushing fist. Since Kai Ying's attack failed, he continued to throw out punches with both his fists. Streaks of earthy yellow fists were like huge mountains as they pressed down on Su Lei. Su Lei's petite body looked like she would be drowned at any time. The hearts of some people in the Divine Dragon Valley rose to their throats. Suddenly, a dark Yin river appeared on Su Lei's body and it emitted a terrifying cold air. The dark Yin river surrounded Su Lei's body. She spun her palms in the air and a terrifying cold current burst out. The mountain-like fist radiance was shattered. Then, Su Lei took a step forward and rushed towards Kai Ying. With a palm strike, the dark Yin river transformed into a dark Yin dragon and danced in the air, destroying everything in its path. Kai Ying's pupils rapidly shrank as he frantically punched out with both his fists. However, wherever the mysterious Yin dragon passed, all of his attacks were destroyed. Kai Ying was shocked. He took a step forward and 18 yellow walls appeared in front of him. He wanted to block the dark Yin dragon's attack. The enigmatic Yin dragon roared and turned back into the enigmatic Yin river. The enigmatic Yin river expanded rapidly, and the water flooded the sky, drowning Kai Ying in the river. Keep! Su Lei said softly and kept the dark Yin river. Kai Ying stood stiffly on the fighting stage. There was no aura on his body. Dead. Kai Ying was dead, killed by Su Lei. Bang! At this moment, Kai Ying's body shattered like an ice cube. Hiss! The crowd took a deep breath, their gazes toward Su Lei were filled with astonishment. The seemingly timid and harmless Su Lei had actually killed Kai Ying. Kai Ying was a peak-level cultivator with a high-grade earthly spiritual body, yet Su Lei was able to kill him. Great! The Dragon God Valley erupted into cheers, while the Heavenly God sect was dead silent. Luo Shuihan's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. A genius with a superior earth spiritual body had died. It was a great loss. A genius with a superior earth spiritual body had the potential to become one of the top 10 monstrous geniuses in the Tsang state. The Heavenly God sect had become stronger in the past few decades. They were becoming the top sect in the Tsang state. That was why they had recruited so many geniuses. It was good enough for the other sects to have 1 or 2 geniuses. Is the Dragon God Valley going to turn the tables like they did 3 years ago? Many people had the same thought. Su Lei was able to kill even the most elite of geniuses. She truly had the strength to turn the tides of the battle. The top geniuses of the other sects looked at Su Lei with fear and seriousness. Many people in the Dragon God Valley looked at Lu Ming with admiration. They knew that Su Lei and Xiao Yingying were recommended by Lu Ming. They didn't expect them to be so monstrous. Lu Ming smiled. There were differences in strength between spiritual bodies of the same level. Su Lei's mystical Yin dragon body was undoubtedly a terrifying body constitution. I told you not to go too far, but you didn't listen. Su Lei muttered softly. Although her voice was soft, it was heard by everyone. Many people were speechless. The people of the Heavenly God sect wanted to vomit blood. In the beginning, who knew that Su Lei had such powerful strength? Su Lei mumbled a few words and returned to the platform. Senior brother Lu Ming, am I okay? Su Lei looked at Lu Ming and asked timidly. Not bad. But Su Lei, you can't go easy on your enemies. If you don't kill them, they will kill you and your family. Do you understand? Lu Ming said. Su Lei understands. Su Lei nodded. This made the hearts of the disciples of the Heavenly God sect, Heavenly Universe Demon sect, and Poison sect sink. We have to change our tactics. The leader of the Heavenly Universe Demon sect said. The leaders of the Heavenly God sect and Poison sect looked pale. They looked at each other and nodded helplessly. In the beginning, they wanted to eliminate the Dragon God Valley in advance by taking turns. But now, the Dragon God Valley had Su Lei who could kill top supreme talents. This was troublesome. If they took turns to take turns, they might lose their lives. By then, they wouldn't even be able to participate in the treasure assembly. They could only take the same path as 3 years ago and eliminate a few weaker sects to maintain their position in the top 10. This made them want to vomit blood. They came aggressively at the beginning and wanted to eliminate the Dragon God Valley first. But now, they had to take the same path as 3 years ago. There was nothing more ironic than this. The disciples of the 3 major sects, especially Luo Shuihan and Mo Yang, looked even gloomier. Could it be that things would really develop like they did 3 years ago? Many people thought so. If that was the case, the Heavenly God sect and the other 2 major sects would be humiliated. After that, the Heavenly Universe Demon sect began to send people to challenge the weaker sections. It was the Dragon God Valley's turn to continue killing the supreme talents of the 3 major sections. But the 3 major sects had no choice but to accept it. Round after round, the battles continued. After many rounds, the 3 weakest factions were finally eliminated by the Celestial sect, the Sky Universe Demon sect and the Desire Poison sect. The top 10 was born. After the top 10 was born, the Heavenly God sect, Heavenly Universe Demon sect, and Poison sect finally took action against the Dragon God Valley. Let's take turns to eliminate the Dragon God Valley. The eyes of the supreme talents of the 3 major sects were burning. The Heavenly God sect first sent a supreme talent to challenge the Dragon God Valley. The supreme talent of the Ice Dragon Valley was defeated. Then, the Heavenly Universe Demon sect sent a supreme talent to fight the leader of the Dragon God Valley. The battle was intense, but in the end, the supreme talent of the Heavenly Universe Demon sect was stronger. He came prepared and defeated the leader of the Dragon God Valley. Chapter 1684. The situation was becoming more and more similar to 3 years ago. However, would Xiao Yingying and Su Lei be able to fend off the attacks? Soon, it was the Desire Poison sect's turn. Xiao Yingying must be skilled in soul attacks. She has a strong soul and can create illusions. You just have to remain calm and use your poisonous insects to deal with Xiao Yingying. Luo Shuihan sent a message to the Desire Poison sect's genius. The Desire Poison sect's genius's eyes lit up and he cupped his fists at Luo Shuihan to express his gratitude. Lu Ming, Don't think that I can't do anything to you just because you found someone skilled in soul power. Let's see how she'll die. Luo Shuihan looked at Lu Ming, her eyes flashing coldly. Sensing Luo Shuihan's gaze, Lu Ming's lips curled into a faint sneer. Whoosh! The Desire Poison Sect's genius jumped onto the fighting stage and challenged Qiu Yingying. Qiu Yingying stepped onto the fighting stage and stood to the side without moving. The two of them faced each other. The Desire Poison Sect's genius emitted a poisonous gas from his body. At the same time, poisonous insects flew out of his body and circled around him. However, the Desire Poison Sect's genius did not attack. Instead, the poisonous gas around him surged toward Qiu Yingying. At this moment, Qiu Yingying's eyes turned pitch black. They were like two deep wells, pitch black and unfathomable. At that moment, the Desire Poison Sect's genius realized that the scene around him had changed. It had turned into hell. Countless demons waved their demonic weapons and charged toward him. Illusions. It's all illusions. The genius of the Desire Poison Sect told himself that he would stand still and let the fiends slash at him. Those abyss devils rushed past like phantoms. It's useless. It's all illusions. The Desire Poison Sect's youth was overjoyed. He circulated his true origin and released poisonous gas. He could not see where Qiu Yingying was because of the illusions. However, as long as he filled the fighting stage with poisonous gas, Qiu Yingying, who had an ordinary spiritual body, would not be able to hold on for long. At that moment, Qiu Yingying stepped forward and walked toward the Desire Poison Sect's genius. Many people watched anxiously. Qiu Yingying had killed a genius of the Celestial God Sect just like that. Would it be the same as the last time? Qiu Yingying arrived in front of the Desire Poison Sect's prodigy and thrust her sword forward. However, at that moment, the poisonous insects that were flying around the Desire Poison Sect's prodigy suddenly transformed into a battle sword and charged toward Qiu Yingying. Qiu Yingying's expression changed. She blocked the attack with her long sword, but her body shook and was sent flying. At the same time, wisps of poisonous gas crawled up Qiu Yingying's body and corroded her protective Zhen Yuan and domain. This move of hers is useless. The poisonous insects of the Desire Poison Sect can sense her aura and automatically attack her. This woman is dead for sure. In the stands, Luo Shuihan laughed heartily, revealing a smug expression. You're not afraid of being slapped in the face again? Lu Ming glanced at Luo Shuihan indifferently. She's proficient in soul power and can create illusions. Don't think that I can't see through it. But now, illusions are useless. With her cultivation, she's doomed. Luo Shuihan sneered with a confident expression. But at this moment, the situation on the battle stage suddenly changed. Die! Qiu Yingying shouted. Two pitch-black sword lights shot out from her eyes and pierced into the body of the Desire Poison Sect's prodigy. The Desire Poison Sect's prodigy let out a shrill cry as poisonous gas surged around his body. In the next moment, the prodigy of the Desire Poison Sect's prodigy collapsed on the battle stage. Dead. The prodigy of the Desire Poison Sect had died just like that. How could this be? Everyone was shocked. They had only seen Qiu Yingying shout and the prodigy of the Desire Poison Sect had died. He was a top prodigy. Bam! Luo Shuihan slammed his palm on his seat, shattering it. His face was burning. He had just said that Qiu Yingying was doomed, but in the next moment, the prodigy of the Desire Poison Sect had died. It was like a slap to his face. Luo Shuihan, won't your face swell? Lu Ming laughed disdainfully. Everything was within Lu Ming's expectations. Qiu Yingying's current soul power was too strong. It was equivalent to the soul power of a LV9 martial royal realm martial artist. Previously, Qiu Yingying had only used the soul power of a LV7 martial royal realm martial artist. Just now, Qiu Yingying had unleashed her strongest soul power and used the divine sword art. The prodigy of the Desire Poison sect was unable to resist and his soul was destroyed. In this competition where the strongest cultivator was only a LV6 martial royal realm martial artist, Qiu Yingying was unbeatable. 3 years ago, when Lu Ming had participated in the treasure sorting convention, his soul power was not as strong as Qiu Yingying's. Luo Shuihan's face turned red when he heard Qiu Yingying's disdainful voice. The prodigies of the Celestial God sect, the Sky Universe Demon sect, and the Desire Poison sect were silent. She had killed a top prodigy with just a shout. How could they continue the battle? Would it work if they took turns? Would they be courting death? How many times could she launch such an attack with her soul power? They had no idea. Qiu Yingying took her opponent's storage ring and returned to the stage. The competition continued. There were only 2 people left in the Dragon God Valley, but no one dared to challenge them. Soon, it was the Dragon God Valley's turn. Su Lei stepped onto the fighting ring and looked at one of the top prodigies of the Celestial God sect. The top genius of the Heavenly God sect wore a solemn expression. After exchanging 2 blows with Su Lei, he actually wanted to rush off the fighting stage, not daring to continue fighting. Dark Yin River. Su Lei intertwined with Su Lei and the Dark Yin River swept toward her opponent. No! Her opponent was terrified. He used all his strength to resist the attack, but the result was his death. He froze to death in the Dark Yin River. The Celestial God sect had lost 2 top prodigies. Damn it! What should we do? What should we do? The 2 girls from the Dragon God Valley are too strong. We can't defeat them. The top prodigies of the Celestial God sect, the Sky Universe Demon sect, and the Desire Poison sect panicked. If they were targeted by Su Lei and Qiu Yingying, they would die. The remaining top prodigies of the 3 sects were especially afraid. With their talents, they did not want to die here. Lu Ming, I will make the Dragon God Valley pay with their blood at the treasure sorting assembly. Luo Shuihan said coldly from the spectators' stand. Then, he rose into the air and left. He did not want to watch what happened next. The result seemed to have been decided. The remaining prodigies of the 3 sects had lost their courage to fight. They only wanted to save their own lives. Of course, they could save their own lives, but it would be embarrassing. Humph. Mo Yang also stood up and left after Luo Shuihan. Sure enough, when it was the Celestial God sect's turn to challenge, they sent out a top prodigy. However, he did not challenge the Dragon God Valley. Instead, he challenged a top prodigy from the Sky Universe Demon sect. Then, the 2 of them exchanged a few blows before both of them left the fighting ring. They were despised by everyone. Chapter 1685. The Celestial Divinity sect and the Empyrean Demon sect's actions were obviously to save their own lives. Otherwise, when the Dragon God Valley challenged them, another elite genius would die. When it was the Empyrean Demon sect's turn, they also sent out a top genius to challenge a top genius from the Celestial God sect. The 2 of them exchanged a few blows and fell off the fighting ring. In this way, the top geniuses from the Celestial God sect and the Empyrean Demon sect were all defeated. Ha ha ha, what are they doing? Are they playing house? Tian Chui laughed loudly and his voice echoed throughout the area. Senior brother, there's something you don't know. These people bully the weak and fear the strong. They bully those who are easy to bully and act all high and mighty. When they see that they are no match for them, they are scared to death. In order to save their lives, they will resort to any means. Xue Ningxin added. No wonder Mo Yang and Luo Shuihan ran away so quickly. They probably can't stand it anymore. Tian Chui grinned. The two of them echoed each other, and the people from the Celestial God sect and the Empyrean Demon sect were so angry that they almost vomited blood. However, they could not refute them. It was too embarrassing. This time, the sects had lost all their face. It was even more embarrassing than 3 years ago. 3 years ago, they could still fight. This time, they did not even dare to fight. I have something to do. I'll take my leave first. I'll take my leave too. At this time, some disciples of the Celestial God sect and the Empyrean Demon sect who were above the 7th level of the martial royal realm stood up and left. It was too embarrassing to stay any longer. The people from the Dragon God Valley were extremely happy. They felt that their minds were clear and their thoughts were clear. This time, the Dragon God Valley had not lost a single person but had killed so many top geniuses from the Celestial God sect. It was too satisfying. More people knew that it was because of Lu Ming. It was all because of Lu Ming that this was the outcome. If Lu Ming had not taken out the life-saving talisman, a group of people would have died when they were targeted by the 3 sections. Su Lei and Qiu Yingying were also brought in by Lu Ming. They did not expect Su Lei and Qiu Yingying to be so terrifying. This time, they had slapped the faces of the Celestial God sect, the Empyrean Demon sect and the Poison sect. Then, the competition continued. When it was the Desire Poison sect's turn, they no longer had any top prodigies. The only one they had was killed by Qiu Yingying. They sent out a random prodigy to challenge another sect. There was no suspense in the next challenge. Every time it was Dragon God Valley's turn to challenge, one of the 3 sects would definitely be killed. As a result, the 3 great sects had no desire to continue fighting. They would directly challenge each other. Every time, both sides would suffer great losses. Their goal was to preserve their lives. This continued until the Heavenly Divine sect, Heavenly Universe Devil sect, and Poison Desire sect were the first to be eliminated. This process was very similar to what happened 3 years ago. However, this time, the remaining top geniuses from the other sects were unable to defeat Su Lei and Qiu Yingying. 3 years ago, Lu Ming was alone. At that time, Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 4th layer of the Martial Emperor realm, so they could take turns to fight him. But this time, Su Lei and Qiu Yingying were 2 people, so they could take turns to rest. Fighting in a chaotic battle was not very effective. In the end, the geniuses had no choice but to tell Qiu Yingying and Su Lei that it was just a friendly match. They were defeated one by one. The rest of the competition was very boring because there was no more suspense. In the end, only Su Lei and Qiu Yingying were left in the fighting ring. After 3 years, Dragon God Valley had won the Treasure Peaking Convention again without losing a single person. This had never happened before in history. The Saint Realm Elder of the Heavenly Divine sect was as black as charcoal. After giving the 7 Emperor Region elixirs to Su Lei and Qiu Yingying, he left with the disciples of the Heavenly Divine sect. The Heavenly Universe Devil sect and Poison Desire sect also left with their tails between their legs. The Saint Realm Elder of Dragon God Valley walked out, grinning from ear to ear. The battle ended with Dragon God Valley's complete victory. The disciples of Dragon God Valley happily returned to their encampment. Junior brother Lu Ming, you must be careful at the Treasure Peaking Convention in 7 days. I'm afraid Mo Yang and Luo Shuihan will target you. Zifeng said worriedly. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled. Everyone went back to their rooms to prepare for the Treasure Peaking Convention in 7 days. Lu Ming also went to his room, but before he reached it, a disciple of Dragon God Valley came to report to Lu Ming that someone wanted to see Lu Ming. Lu Ming was curious. Who could it be? There was a quiet bamboo forest at the back of the mountain of Dragon God Valley. When Lu Ming stepped into the bamboo forest, his eyes lit up. In front of him was a lady in a white dress. She was beautiful and stood in the bamboo forest like a fairy from a painting. Xian Yanjuan. Although Xian Yanjuan and Xian Yanqing looked almost the same, Lu Ming could still recognize him at a glance. Lu Ming did not expect the person looking for him to be Xian Yanjuan. Xian Yanjuan, long time no see. Lu Ming stepped forward and said faintly. Ever since the Sky God sect and other sects went to the Divine Ruins mainland to recruit disciples, Xian Yanjuan was chosen by the Sky God sect and came to the Yuan continent. They had not seen each other for almost 6 years. Xian Yanjuan had come to the Yuan continent 2 years earlier than them. All these years, Xian Yanjuan had not shown himself. Why did he look for Lu Ming now? Long time no see indeed. I already know about the Divine Wilderness mainland. Xian Yanjuan said with a faint smile. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he looked at Xian Yanjuan and said, "You sent people to the Divine Wilderness?" "That's right. But don't worry, I did not interfere with the matters of the Divine Wilderness mainland. After all, the Divine Wilderness mainland is too small. It's not enough to fight for it. It's good that the Xia family ended up like that." Xian Yanjuan said softly. "Oh? You came to look for me because of this?" Lu Ming asked as he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. "Of course not. I came to look for you because of the Divine Sun. I want to tell you a secret about the Divine Sun," Xian Yanjuan said. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He did not speak and looked at Xian Yanjuan. "Lu Ming, let me tell you. The Divine Sun has broken through to the great success Bright Sage realm not long ago." Xian Yanjuan continued. "Oh." Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The Divine Sun had indeed broken through. Moreover, the Divine Sun has cultivated a secret skill. If he explodes it, he can increase his combat strength for a short period of time. Xian Yanjuan continued. "Why are you telling me this?" Lu Ming asked. Why would Xian Yanjuan be so kind to tell him the Divine Sun's secret? One had to know that Xian Yanjuan was also a member of the Celestial Divinity sect and the Saintess of the Celestial Divinity sect. Back when Lu Ming first came to the Yuan continent and entered the Emperor Tsang's secret realm, Xian Yanjuan had even asked someone to kill him. Now, he was so kind to remind him of the Divine Sun's secret. Lu Ming was naturally puzzled. "I'll say the same thing again. The Divine Wilderness mainland is too small. Now, look at the Tsang state and even the entire Yuan continent." Chapter 1686. Lu Ming understood. Xian Yanjuan was very ambitious. She wanted to control the Celestial sect. However, in order to control the Celestial sect, she had to get rid of the God Sun first, because the God Sun was the most popular candidate for the next sect master of the Celestial sect. With the God Sun, it would be more difficult for Xian Yanjuan to control the Celestial sect. She wanted to borrow Lu Ming's hand to get rid of the God Sun, so she told Lu Ming this secret. "I'm only a half-step sage now, but the God Sun is already in the great success stage of the Bright Sage realm. I'm afraid I'm no match for the God Sun. Even if you tell me this, I'm afraid it's useless." Lu Ming stared at Xian Yanjuan and said. "You came from a remote family in the Divine Wilderness continent, unified the Divine Wilderness, established the Dragon Alliance, and even killed all the experts in the Divine Ruins continent. Lu Ming, I believe that the God Sun won't be a problem for you," Xian Yanjuan said. After she finished speaking, she smiled in a flirtatious manner. Then, she turned around and left. This woman was very ambitious. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, but he had to admit that Xian Yanjuan's information was very useful to Lu Ming. The God Sun had already broken through to the great success stage of the Bright Sage realm, and he knew a secret technique that allowed him to have a short burst of combat strength. When Lu Ming's cultivation level was still low, he had come into contact with many secret skills that allowed one to increase their combat power within a short period of time. However, those secret skills and means were only useful when one's cultivation level was low. At his current cultivation level, those secret skills were completely useless. In this way, Lu Ming was mentally prepared. Otherwise, he would be in danger if the god sun suddenly burst out. Great success stage of the Bright Sage realm. Lu Ming's eyes flashed and he returned to his room. After entering the mountain and river diagram, Lu Ming took out a pile of dragon bones and began to devour and refine them. This pile of dragon bones was bought by Lu Ming in the Supreme Treasure Pavilion. They were the bones of a great sage true dragon, and their spiritual essence was preserved very well. Time passed day by day. Soon, it was time for the treasure sorting convention. As for Lu Ming, he had finally refined all 3,000 kilograms of dragon bones. Still not enough. Lu Ming sighed softly. Even after refining all 3,000 kilograms of great sage-level dragon bone, Lu Ming's spirit body still hadn't evolved. It was still a low-grade spirit body. The amount of true dragon essence needed to evolve the heavenly spiritual body was beyond imagination. A huge amount of essence energy was stored in Lu Ming's body, but it hadn't accumulated to the point of evolution. In the future, he would need to refine more true dragon essence before the energy would erupt and evolve. It's almost time for the treasure sorting convention. Lu Ming got up and exited the mountain and river diagram. As soon as he left the mountain and river diagram, he ran into Tian Chui, Xuaningxin, Su Lei, Qiu Yingying, Qiu Hao, and Lu Xiangxiang. Ninth junior brother, you've finally come out of seclusion. The treasure sorting convention is about to begin. Let's go and meet up with the others. Tian Chui said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. The group flew towards an open space. When they arrived, they found that there were already many people there. In the middle of the open space were the participants of the treasure sorting convention. Lu Ming, Tian Chui, and Xuaningxin flew down and met up with the others. Junior brother Lu Ming. Zifeng nodded at Lu Ming kindly. There were others who also greeted Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled in response. Of course, there were also cold gazes that looked at Lu Ming, such as Yin Zisong. They were surrounded by disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley. There were even elders among them. Second senior brother, third senior brother. Lu Ming looked around and saw his second senior brother Long Yuanshan and third senior brother Yang Tianzong. The two of them nodded and smiled at Lu Ming. At this time, an old man in a purple robe walked over in the air. There were several other old men beside him, each of them exuding a vast aura. Purple Dragon Valley Master. Someone exclaimed. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He did not expect the Purple Dragon Valley Master to come personally. Among the 7 valleys of the Dragon God Valley, the Purple Dragon Valley was undoubtedly in the top 3. The Purple Dragon Valley Master was also a rare expert in the Dragon God Valley. I will lead the treasure sorting convention this time. You must do your best to bring glory to the Dragon God Valley. Those who contribute in the treasure sorting convention will be heavily rewarded by the sect. Of course, if you are in danger, I hope you will prioritize your own safety. Do you understand? The Purple Dragon Valley Master said loudly as he landed in front of them. Yes. Everyone replied. All right, let's go. The Purple Dragon Valley Master and a few other elders flew into the air. Lu Ming and the rest followed behind them. Behind them were a large number of disciples of the Dragon God Valley who were there to watch. The venue of the treasure sorting convention was at the peak of the Tsang Mountain. There was a huge fighting stage there, surrounded by rows of seats. It was huge and could accommodate hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. When Lu Ming and the rest landed, a few other sects had already arrived. The Dragon God Valley randomly chose a seat and landed. There were thousands of people, but they only occupied a small area. Then, the other sects landed one after another. There were many of them, and each sect had thousands of people. Only the Life and Death Sword sect was an exception. All of them added up to less than 100 people. The Life and Death Sword sect had very few people to begin with. Swoosh! Swoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air was heard. One by one, the sects landed. Heavenly Universe Demon Sect, Heavenly God Sect, and so on. When the Heavenly Universe Demon Sect arrived, Lu Ming looked over. Then, a trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes. He did not see Xian Yanqing. Mo Yang looked coldly at Lu Ming with a sinister smile on his face. In the direction of the Heavenly God Sect, Luo Shuihan also looked at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. Lu Ming saw Xian Yanjuan, but he was a little surprised. This was because Xian Yanjuan was sitting in the audience's seat, not the contestant's seat. Xian Yanjuan is not participating. 7 days ago, when Lu Ming saw Xian Yanjuan, he vaguely felt that Xian Yanjuan's cultivation was very profound. He was at least a half-saint, and his realm was even stronger than Lu Ming's. However, Xian Yanjuan hid it very well, so Lu Ming could not see through Xian Yanjuan's specific cultivation. With such a cultivation, why is he not participating? Lu Ming was a little puzzled. Every time the treasure sorting convention was held, only 10 sects would participate. The other 3 top sects had already been eliminated in the treasure sorting convention, but there was still a large number of people who came to watch. In addition to the 13 top sects, there were also some small sects and forces who came to watch. This was the biggest event in the Tsang state, which was held once every 3 years. Naturally, it attracted many people. That's the Divine Child. The Divine Child is here. Suddenly, someone let out a cry of surprise. Everyone looked over. The Divine Child was dressed in a white robe and bathed in holy light. He was like the son of a god, stepping on the air. He did not exude a strong aura, but he gave off a strong pressure. He stood high in the air above the battle platform, looking down on everyone like a god. He was extremely arrogant. Lu Ming, I hope you can pass the treasure sorting convention. Chapter 1687. Lu Ming looked at the Divine Sun and sneered, "Don't worry, I'll kill you after the treasure sorting convention." Huh, how arrogant. Lu Ming, you won't have the chance to fight with senior brother Divine Sun. The treasure sorting convention will be your death date. Luo Shuihan laughed with contempt. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not say anything else. There was no point in saying anything more. The Divine Sun did not say anything either. He took a step forward and appeared on the celestial sect stand. Then, an old man rose to the sky and stood in the air above the fighting stage, overlooking the whole place. This old man was the judge of the convention. He was from the Peyuan family. The Peyuan family had been eliminated during the treasure determining convention. Every time, the judge of the treasure determining convention was someone from the eliminated sect. That way, it would be fairer and wouldn't be biased towards any side. I, Peyuan Gue, am the judge of this convention. Now, I will announce the rules of the treasure sorting convention. This treasure sorting convention will be different from the past because the rules have been changed. Peyuan Gue's voice echoed throughout the place. This convention will be divided into 2 rounds. A total of 10 sects will participate and each sect will send out 20 people. The first round will be a selection. The 10 sects will enter 10 array worlds and hunt demonic beasts. Some of the demonic beasts will have a wind core in their bodies while others do not. Your goal is to hunt for wind cores and then rank the top 80 based on the number of wind cores you have. Only the top 80 sects will enter the second round. Peyuan Gue explained. Everyone understood immediately. In the first round, only 80 people would be able to advance. The rest would be eliminated. The second round will be the point competition. 80 people will take turns to fight each other. Everyone will have to fight once, regardless of whether they are from the same sect or from different sections. Every victory will earn you 1 point. In the end, the sect with the most points will be the champion of this year's treasure sorting convention. That sect will have the right to control the 2 ancient treasures until the next treasure sorting convention. I will announce the rules of the second round when the second round begins. Peyuan continued to speak and gave a rough account of the events of the second round. It's a point competition. Zifeng's eyes moved. This way, whichever sect has the most people in the first round will have an advantage in the second round. Lu Ming said. The more people who entered the second round, the higher the probability of obtaining points. Naturally, the total points of a sect would be higher. Now, I'll open the formation. Peyuan Gui said. Then, a powerful aura emanated from his body. With a wave of his hand, Saint Power surged. In the sky, 10 doors of light suddenly appeared. There are 10 array worlds here. These 10 array worlds are almost identical, and the difficulty is also the same. Now, each sect will enter a array world to hunt for the wind core. You only have half an hour. Breaking Origin returns announced. Whoosh! 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 As soon as Peyuan Gui finished speaking, the participants from the 10 great sects all rose into the air. Each sect had 20 people. Everyone randomly chose a door and rushed in. Dragon God Valley chose the nearest door, and the 20 of them rushed in. The next moment, they found themselves in a grassland. At first glance, the grassland was boundless. This world was a world created by a formation. It wasn't real. Everything here was fake. Only the wind core was real. Their target was the wind core. Roar! Not far away, a wind wolf stared at them and roared. Beast, check if there's a wind core. A 9th-layer martial dominator rushed out and pounced on the wind wolf. The wind wolf howled and dashed forward like a gust of wind, causing the disciple of the Dragon God Valley to miss his target. Where do you think you're going? The disciple felt embarrassed that he missed, so he continued to pounce on the wind wolf. However, Wind Wolf's figure moved like the wind, and his speed was astonishing. For a moment, the disciple was unable to take him down. How fast? Are all the beasts here so fast? Someone's face darkened. If all the beasts here were so fast, it would not be easy to hunt for the wind core. We only have half an hour. Let's move quickly. Zifeng said. It's better for us to team up. That way, we can hunt faster. Lu Ming said. If the beasts here were so fast, a single person would not be able to hunt for the wind core as fast as a team. Alright, let's team up. Let's go. Zifeng said. Lu Ming went with Tian Chui and Xuanixin. Zifeng went with 2 disciples of the Violet Dragon Valley. The others followed suit and flew into the distance in groups of 3 to 5. The array world was extremely spacious, as if there was no end to it. The group dispersed into the array world and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming, Tian Chui, and Xuanixin flew forward at a rapid pace. They had covered a distance of a few thousand li in just a few moments. There are a few beasts below. Xuanixin glanced downward. Kill. Tian Chui raised his giant hammer and swung it at the beasts. Bang! The giant hammer struck the ground, causing the ground to tremble and dust to fill the air. Whoosh! Whoosh! A few figures dashed out from the dust, which turned out to be the beasts. Their figures were as fast as the wind, allowing them to dodge Tian Chui's attack. They're really fast. Watch me. Tian Chui waved his hand and the giant hammer in his hand flew out like a bolt of lightning. Like a meteorite, it smashed into one of the beasts. The beast was crushed by the huge force and exploded. But at this time, the other demonic beasts had already fled far away. Lu Ming cast the Tempest Steps. His figure flashed and he chased after a demonic beast. Within a few breaths, he caught up with the demonic beast. He threw a punch and the demonic beast disintegrated, turning into energy and dissipating. No wind core. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. There was no wind core among the beasts. Lu Ming then went to Tian Chui. Tian Chui said with a bitter face, "Ninth junior brother, there is no wind core. Have you found it?" "No." Lu Ming shook his head. Peyuan Gui said that some beasts do not have wind cores and some do. It seems that the probability of some beasts not being very high. Xuanixin said. The beasts here are fast, and the probability of them having wind cores is not high. Moreover, we only have half an hour. If this continues, it will be difficult to hunt for enough wind cores. Tian Chui said. It's fine. I have a way. Let's go find the beasts first. Lu Ming said. Then, the three of them continued to fly and look for beasts. There was no lack of beasts on the grassland. After a while, they saw a few beasts. 9 seals of the Divine Gate. Lu Ming used the 9 seals of the Divine Gate. 9 sealing doors appeared and froze the beasts in place. Chapter 1688. We found the wind core. Tian Chui laughed heartily. After one of the demonic beasts was killed, it dropped a crystal. The crystal was translucent with green energy lingering around it. This was the wind core. This wind core had a special mark. It could be seen at a glance whether it was taken out of this place or not. Let's continue. Lu Ming said. Next, they continued to search for beasts. Lu Ming used the 9 seals of the Divine Gate to seal the beasts, while Tian Chui and Xuanixin were responsible for killing them. The wind cores were divided equally among the 3. The beasts here were not very strong except for their speed. Tian Chui and Xuanixin could easily kill them. However, the number of beasts with wind cores was very small. On average, only 1 out of 10 beasts had wind cores. This greatly increased the difficulty of obtaining wind cores. However, Lu Ming and the other 2 worked together very quickly. They did not need to waste any time when encountering beasts. Lu Ming used the seals while Tian Chui and Xuanixin dealt with the beasts in an instant. 10 minutes later, the 3 of them had already killed hundreds of demonic beasts and obtained 30 wind cores, 10 for each of them. Roar! 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 Roars came from the front. The 3 of them were shocked and continued to move forward. Soon, a large group of beasts appeared in front of them. Those were wind leopards. They were even faster than wind wolves. There were hundreds of wind leopards in this group. They were running on the grassland. So many of them. We're rich. Tian Chui's eyes lit up and he grinned. Roar! Roar! The wind leopards also noticed Lu Ming and the other 2. With a few loud roars, the wind leopards scattered. They were like hundreds of lightning bolts, flying in all directions. There were too many of them. Even if Lu Ming used the 9 seals of the Divine Gate, he could only seal a few of them. Bubble, we're counting on you. Lu Ming whispered. Bubble had already appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder. At this time, it waved its paw, and the space in front of it rippled like water. Then, the wind leopards all stopped in the air, motionless. Kill! Tian Chui and Xuanixin were very excited and charged at the wind leopards. As for Lu Ming, he also flew up. With a wave of his hand, spear light shot out, killing the wind leopards one by one. The wind leopards froze in midair before exploding. Pieces of sparkling and translucent wind cores appeared in the air. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of wind leopards were all killed by them, and they obtained dozens of wind cores. Ha ha ha, awesome, too awesome. Sky Hammer is incomparably excited as he swings his hammer around. Xuanixin was also smiling. Hunting wind leopards like this was indeed very satisfying. The two of them glanced at the bubble on Lu Ming's shoulder and didn't say anything. They naturally wouldn't ask about Lu Ming's secret. Junior brother, let's go hunt a large group of demonic beasts. Tian Chui's eyes sparkled. All right. Lu Ming nodded. Immediately, the three of them flew into the air and specifically chose large groups of demonic beasts to hunt. Normally, the three of them wouldn't stop when they saw one or two demonic beasts. They would only stop when they saw more than 10 demonic beasts. This grassland didn't lack demonic beasts. Not long after, they encountered a group of demonic beasts. There were more than 100 of them, and their speed was astonishing. If they encountered so many demonic beasts, it would be impossible to kill all of them. They would only be able to kill a portion of them. These demonic beasts were too fast, and they fled in all directions. It was difficult to kill all of them. However, Lu Ming and the others were different. Lu Ming had Bubble, and Bubble used the spacetime laws to freeze the demonic beasts, allowing them to slaughter them. Their efficiency greatly increased. Half an hour was too short, and it passed very quickly. Lu Ming and the others were flying when the space trembled. They felt their bodies tighten, and in the next moment, they returned to the place where they had just entered. The other Dragon God Valley disciples also appeared there. Time is up so quickly. I only hunted a few wind cores. Me too. Some of the Dragon God Valley disciples sighed. Those who were unlucky didn't have any wind cores after killing demonic beasts. After half an hour, they only obtained a few wind cores. Senior brother Zifeng, how many wind cores did you get? Someone asked Zifeng. I got 31 wind cores. Zifeng said. He then looked at Lu Ming and said, Junior brother Lu Ming, how's your harvest? Our harvest is okay. Lu Ming nodded and said, Senior brother Zifeng got more than 30 wind cores. It seems that we don't need too many wind cores to enter the top 80. 20 wind cores are enough. Let's distribute them. Distribute? The others looked at each other. Most of them didn't even get 20 wind cores. How were they going to distribute them? Lu Ming, Tian Chui, and Xuanixin looked at each other. Then, with a thought, a large pile of wind cores appeared in the air. The other Dragon God Valley disciples were stunned. All of them were dumbfounded. There were too many. Lu Ming and the others had a few hundred wind cores in total. That many? Zifeng was also dumbfounded. Lu Ming smiled. The three of them got more than 280 wind cores in total. The three of us will each take 30 wind cores. The rest will be distributed to those with higher cultivation so that more of us can enter the second round. Senior brother Zifeng, you can distribute them. Lu Ming said. Then, he, Tian Chui, and Xuanixin each took 30 wind cores, leaving more than 190 wind cores. They didn't need many wind cores, as long as they could enter the second round. The most important thing was that more people from the Dragon God Valley could enter the second round. The more people that entered, the higher the chances of getting points in the second round. Even if they got one more point, it could be the deciding factor in the end. This time, Lu Ming must help the Dragon God Valley get first place and get the two ancient treasures in their hands. Only then could Lu Ming get the fragments of the prison-suppressing monument. All right. Zifeng nodded and began to distribute the wind cores. He didn't distribute the wind cores to those with lower cultivation. Instead, he distributed the wind cores to those with higher cultivation. In the end, only 5 people didn't get any wind cores. These 5 people had the lowest cultivation. Including the wind cores that he got, the others each had about 20 wind cores. Based on the number of wind cores that Zifeng got, 20 wind cores should be enough. The 5 people didn't complain. Their cultivation was the lowest, so even if they entered the second round, it would be difficult for them to get any points. Alright, let's go out, Zifeng said. Then, the group went to the light door in the sky. In the next moment, they appeared above the fighting stage. At the same time, the other sects also walked out of the light door. Now, take out your wind cores. One by one, I will record the number. The 80 people who get the most wind cores will enter the second round. Returning to Tao. Let's go first. Chapter 1689. Alright, take out your wind cores. Returning to Tao. Luo Shuihan waved his hand and pieces of sparkling wind cores appeared in the sky. There were a total of 43 wind cores. 43 wind cores, not bad. Returning to Tao, someone beside him recorded the number of wind cores that Luo Shuihan had. Luo Shuihan's face was cold and arrogant. He did not believe that the others would have more wind cores than him. Following that, the other heavenly god sect disciples began to take out their wind cores. The second person had a much smaller number of wind cores, only 25 of them. However, the next 10 people each had 20 wind cores. However, when it came to the 11th person, he shook his head, indicating that he did not have any. Starting from the 11th person, the other 10 people shook their heads and retreated to the side. It seems that the heavenly god sect's wind cores have been redistributed to the 10 strongest people, Zifeng said. Lu Ming nodded. It was obvious that they were not the only ones. The other sects had also distributed their wind cores. The weaker wind cores were given to the stronger wind cores in the hope that more people would enter the second round. Indeed, most of the sects that came after had their wind cores distributed. Only the stronger ones had wind cores while the weaker ones did not have a single one. Of course, it was impossible for every sect to have as many wind cores as the heavenly god sect. The top 10 people each had more than 20 wind cores. Some of the top 10 people had at least 10 wind cores. One by one, the sects went up. Luo Shuihan looked at Lu Ming and the rest and sneered, "What's wrong? Why aren't the Divine Dragon Valley going up to check the wind cores? Don't you have too few wind cores? We have too many wind cores and we don't want to scare you." Tian Chui grinned. "Too many? You're shameless." Luo Shuihan sneered. "Let's go up." At that moment, Zifeng spoke and stepped forward to returning to Tao. He waved his hand and a pile of wind cores appeared in front of him. There was a total of 31 wind cores. Only 31 wind cores. Zifeng, you're ranked last among the Tsang state geniuses. Luo Shuihan sneered. Indeed, the other monstrous geniuses who had gone up to count all had over 30 pieces. Zifeng had the least. It was not that Zifeng's wind cores were not as good as the other geniuses. It was obvious that some of the other geniuses had taken some wind cores from other disciples, which was why they had so many of them. As for Zifeng, he did not take it from anyone else in Dragon God Valley. His thoughts were the same as Lu Ming and the others. As long as there were enough people, it would be fine. Zifeng smiled faintly and ignored Luo Shuihan. Then, Lu Ming stepped forward. With a wave of his hand, 30 wind cores appeared. Luo Shuihan narrowed her eyes and sneered, 30 pieces? Looks like quite a number of Dragon God Valley disciples have obtained wind cores in your hands, right? Lu Ming glanced indifferently at Luo Shuihan. His eyes were filled with ridicule and contempt, causing Luo Shuihan to feel even more displeased. Then, Tian Chui and Xuanixin stepped forward and each took out 30 wind cores, which shocked the others. Luo Shuihan's face became even gloomier. She said, "It seems that your Dragon God Valley has gathered all the wind cores on you guys. You actually gave so many wind cores to 2 people in the first stage of the half-saints. It's really unwise. It seems that Dragon God Valley will be at the bottom this time." The others were shocked. Dragon God Valley had gathered most of the wind cores in the hands of Lu Ming and the others. That was why they had so many wind cores. Otherwise, they would not believe that Tian Chui and Xuanixin, 2 first-stage half-saints, would be able to obtain 30 wind cores. Idiots! Tian Chui said disdainfully. Luo Shuihan's eyes turned cold. Tian Chui dared to call her an idiot. "You're courting death." Luo Shuihan's eyes flashed. Then, the others from Dragon God Valley stepped forward and took out their wind cores. 26 pieces, 25 pieces, 23 pieces. In the end, there were 15 people in Dragon God Valley, including Lu Ming and the others, and they took out more than 20 wind cores. Luo Shuihan was stunned, and so were the others. How is this possible?" Someone shouted in disbelief. This was especially true for the geniuses from the other sects who were participating in the competition. They knew very well how fast the demonic beasts were and how hard it was to capture them. Dragon God Valley had obtained so many wind cores. Luo Shuihan's face was flushed red. Dragon God Valley doesn't have many wind cores, but only 15 people have obtained more than 20 wind cores. There are still 5 senior brothers who have not obtained any wind cores. I'm ashamed. Tian Chui stared at Luo Shuihan and sighed. Pfft! Some of the onlookers laughed out loud, especially the people from Dragon God Valley, who laughed out loud. Tian Chui was openly mocking Luo Shuihan. Some people are just shameless. Others don't want to talk to him, but he keeps asking to be slapped. Does he like the feeling of being slapped? Lu Ming said. His words were more direct and full of sarcasm. Luo Shuihan's face was incomparably gloomy as a cold light flickered continuously. His body was trembling from anger. Luo Shuihan took a deep breath to calm himself down. He snorted and said, "You're just lucky. When you enter the second round, you'll have to rely on your strength. Let's see how you'll die then." Luo Shuihan, remember what you said. Lu Ming replied coldly. In an instant, Dragon God Valley and Heavenly God Sect were at loggerheads. Both sides retreated to the side and waited quietly. Not long after, everyone was counted and Peyuan Gui started to announce the rankings. Peyuan Gui only announced the top 80 people. Without exception, the top 15 from Dragon God Valley had entered the second round, becoming the sect with the most people in the second round. The Heavenly God sect with the second most people only had 10 people. The sect with the least number of people only had 4 people in the second round. There were a total of 10 sects and 80 people in the second round. On average, each sect had 8 people. Dragon God Valley had 15 of them, which had greatly exceeded the average. Lu Ming was ranked 9th, second only to Zifeng. Of course, no one thought that Lu Ming's combat strength was enough to be ranked 9th and compete with the top 10 monstrous geniuses of the Tsang state. The number of wind cores didn't mean anything. Didn't they see that Tian Chui and Xuanixin had 30 wind cores? They were tied with Lu Ming. Many people from Dragon God Valley had 20 wind cores and were ranked in the top 10 or 20. Luck. Many people thought that Dragon God Valley must be lucky to have obtained a large number of wind cores. After the rankings were announced, everyone returned to their seats and waited for the second round to begin. Peyuan Gui looked around and started to announce the rules of the second round. As mentioned before, the second round of the competition was to take turns. Each person would have to fight with the others one by one. One victory would earn 1 point. Chapter 1690. However, there were some other rules in the process of the competition. For example, admitting defeat. Before the competition started, one could admit defeat. But once one admitted defeat, one would lose the right to participate in the following competitions and would be eliminated in advance. However, one could keep their points. For example, if one had already obtained 5 points and met an opponent he couldn't defeat, he could take the initiative to admit defeat before the battle started. This way, he could keep his 5 points, but would lose the right to participate in the following competitions. But once the battle started, one couldn't admit defeat. Once the battle started, one would either be defeated, rushed off the fighting ring, or killed. Only then would the battle end. Once the battle started, one couldn't admit defeat. However, if one rushed off the fighting ring, it would be considered a failure. Not only could one keep their current points, but they could also continue to participate in the following competitions. It was the same if one was defeated or knocked off the fighting ring. But once one was killed, one's points would be reduced to 0. In other words, no matter how many points one had, once one was killed, one would have 0 points. Therefore, the best choice was to keep one's life without admitting defeat. Moreover, the competition was different from the treasure sorting convention. It wasn't forbidden to use holy weapons. Because the participants of the treasure sorting convention were all powerful. Many of them were half-saints. They could only display the power of holy weapons if they used them. But there was one very important point. The winner of the convention would receive an extra 10 points. Therefore, the first place was especially important. 10 points could often decide the winner. The Celestial God sect had won many competitions in a row. The first place played an important role. Alright, the rules have been explained. Now, let's begin the second round. I'll randomly draw lots. The 2 people I draw will fight each other. When everyone has fought, the first round will end. Peyuangue said. Then he took out a box with the names of the 80 people who had entered the second round. Peyuangue drew 2 names. Long Bing, Luo Shuihan. Peyuangue called out their names. Many people were shocked. They didn't expect Luo Shuihan to fight in the first round of the second round. Luo Shuihan stood up and stepped onto the fighting ring. In the area of Dragon God Valley, a young man stood up with an ugly expression. Long Bing was one of the 15 people in Dragon God Valley. Long Bing's expression was very bad. He did not expect that the first person he met would be Luo Shuihan. However, there were a total of 80 people, and 15 of them were from the Dragon God Valley. Long Bing, you are no match for Luo Shuihan. Go up and admit defeat. Zifeng warned Long Bing. Long Bing nodded and jumped onto the fighting ring. Huh, looks like I'm pretty lucky. I'm going to meet someone from Divine Dragon Valley in the first round. Luo Shuihan laughed as a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Now, let the battle begin. Breaking Origin returns announced. Admit defeat. Luo Shuihan said indifferently. A look of struggle flashed in Long Bing's eyes. If he admitted defeat just like this, then his progress in the treasure auction would stop here, and he wouldn't be able to obtain a single point. In the second round, the Dragon God Valley would give out a large amount of contribution points for every point obtained. It was the same for the other sections. He was unwilling to admit defeat just like that. Bang! Long Bing took a heavy step and rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. As long as he rushed down from the fighting ring, he would be considered to have lost this round. However, he could still continue to compete in the following rounds. He had the cultivation of the first stage of the half-sage realm. So, it was still possible for him to obtain points in the following rounds. Oh no! Seeing that Long Bing didn't admit defeat and wanted to rush down from the fighting ring, Zifeng and the others were shocked. If he didn't admit defeat, then he would lose the chance to admit defeat. Since you don't admit defeat, then I'll send you on your way." Luo Shuihan was overjoyed. His body was bathed in holy light. He moved like a ray of holy light and rushed toward Long Bing. In an instant, he caught up with Long Bing. With a wave of his hand, a holy light palm print blasted toward Long Bing. Long Bing's face turned pale. He moved and changed his direction, rushing to the other side. "You can't escape." A cold light flashed in Luo Shuihan's eyes. He condensed a spear of divine punishment in his hand and shot it at lightning speed. Puchi. The spear of divine punishment directly pierced through one of Long Bing's legs. Long Bing's leg exploded. He screamed and fell to the ground with a look of despair on his face. Luo Shuihan took a step forward and appeared in front of Long Bing. His eyes were cold as he said, "You don't admit defeat when facing me. Only death awaits you." With a wave of his hand, a ray of holy light slashed and cut off one of Long Bing's arms. Blood splattered everywhere. "Ah, Luo Shuihan, kill me if you want. Don't humiliate me." Long Bing roared. Bang! Luo Shuihan stepped on Long Bing's face and said coldly, "Do I need you to teach me whether I want to kill you or not? You people from the Dragon God Valley are all audacious. How dare you offend me? You all deserve to die." Puchi. Another ray of holy light slashed and cut off Long Bing's other arm. "Damn it, Luo Shuihan, do it if you want to." Zifeng roared like a violent dragon. The other people from the Dragon God Valley were also furious. The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes grew colder. Luo Shuihan did it on purpose. He could have killed Long Bing in one move, but he tortured him like this to take revenge on the Dragon God Valley and Lu Ming. If you want to blame someone, blame Lu Ming. He doesn't know what's good for him. Luo Shuihan laughed and stomped on the ground. Long Bing exploded. Luo Shuihan looked at Lu Ming and smiled. "So what if the Dragon God Valley has a lot of people in the second round? No matter how many people there are, I'll just kill them all. Luo Shuihan, you'd better admit defeat when you meet me. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death." Lu Ming spoke, his voice as cold as a knife. He had to kill Luo Shuihan. "You want to kill me? I'll wait for you," Luo Shuihan said coldly. Then, he jumped off the fighting ring. The first round of the competition ended just like that. Junior brothers and sisters, if you meet someone whose cultivation is too far apart, just admit defeat. Don't take any chances. Zifeng sent a voice transmission to the other participants of the Dragon God Valley. Everyone nodded. If the difference in cultivation was too great, they couldn't even rush off the fighting ring. The second round, Zifeng vs. Lu De. The voice of Origin Returner was heard. "It's my turn in the second round." Zifeng got up and stepped onto the fighting ring. "I'm really unlucky." A young man stood up in the Heavenly King's Hall's area. He was indeed unlucky to meet one of the top 10 monsters in the first round. "Junior brother, just admit defeat," the monster from the Heavenly King's Hall urged. Lu De stepped onto the fighting ring. When Origin Returner announced the start of the round, Lu De admitted defeat. Admitting defeat meant that he was eliminated in advance. He wouldn't be able to participate in the next round. In this way, there were only 78 people left. In theory, all 80 people would have to fight, and in the end, everyone would have to fight 80 rounds. In reality, it was impossible to fight that many rounds. Chapter 1691. Lu De admitted defeat. Zifeng received 1 point and returned to the spectator stand. Next, Yuan Pagui continued to draw lots and the competition continued. In the third round, the two geniuses' cultivations were about the same. One of them was a stage 2 half-saint, while the other was a stage 1 half-saint. In fact, those who could enter the second round were all stage 1/2 saints. Many of them had superior earth spiritual bodies, and a few of them were medium earth spiritual bodies. They were the top geniuses of the top 10 sects in the Tsang prefecture. Each one of them was very strong. In this round, the stage 1/2 saint tried his best to get off the fighting ring. The difference of one level made it impossible for the stage 1/2 saint to win. In the end, the stage 1/2 saint paid a small price and got off the fighting ring. This way, he could at least continue to compete. The matches were carried out one after another. Soon, more than 30 matches had been carried out. Some people admitted defeat, while others were killed. Those who met one of the top 10 geniuses all admitted defeat. The difference was too big. They could only admit that they were unlucky. In the Dragon God Valley, there were also a few people who admitted defeat. However, Tian Chui and Xuaningxin were lucky. Their opponents were stage 1/2 saints, just like them. There was no doubt that Tian Chui and Xuaningxin were very powerful at the same level, so they both defeated their opponents and got 1 point. Lu Ming paid attention to Luo Xiang from the Life and Death Sword sect. Luo Xiang, who had competed with him in the Tsang Emperor Mystery Realm, had become very powerful. Stage 2/2 saint. And his spiritual body had become a superior earth spiritual body. He nurtured his sword soul for 15 years, and now his sword soul is feeding back to his spiritual body. What a terrifying cultivation method! Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. Lu Ming's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds in the 100-tribe battlefield. However, Luo Xiang's cultivation speed was not inferior to his. It was really shocking. Moreover, Luo Xiang's combat strength was unfathomable. A stage 1/2 saint from the Desire Poison sect wanted to get off the fighting ring, but a sword light flashed and he was killed. This person is very strong. Even Zifeng furrowed his brows, revealing a solemn expression. Lu Ming against Hu Shao. At this moment, the sound of returning origin breaking rang out. It was Lu Ming's turn. Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward, appearing on the battle stage. Lu Ming's opponent was a young genius from the Demon Castle, who was in the first stage of the half-saint realm. Roar! Hu Shao roared and transformed into his true form, which was a gigantic demonic tiger. His eyes were filled with savagery as he said, "Lu Ming, although your battle prowess is not bad, I'm not afraid of you. Let's fight." When Lu Ming was outside the treasure pavilion, he had slaughtered many second-stage half-saints with ease. However, those people's spiritual bodies were not of a high level. Hu Shao, on the other hand, had a superior earthly spiritual body. When the referee announced the start of the match, Hu Shao roared and pounced at Lu Ming. His claws were as sharp as blades as he clawed at Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was faster. In a flash, he appeared in front of Hu Shao and punched him in the jaw. Hu Shao's huge body was sent flying. He rolled a few times on the battle stage before he could get up. After getting up, Hu Shao did not dare to continue fighting. He ran away and rushed down the battle stage. Lu Ming stood there and did not stop him. He watched as Hu Shao rushed down the battle stage. The Demon Castle and Dragon God Valley had a good relationship. Lu Ming did not need to kill Hu Shao. Moreover, Lu Ming could not show too much of his battle prowess. Otherwise, how could he lure the people of the Celestial Sect? It seems that Lu Ming's battle prowess is only average. His speed is a little faster, but his attack power is not too strong. He only injured Hu Shao but did not kill him. That's normal. Demonic beasts have strong defense. Lu Ming's cultivation is not that high either. Sure enough, people were discussing. Lu Ming smiled and returned to the spectator stand. He had scored 1 point. The matches continued. Soon, all 80 people and 40 matches were over. After the end of this round of competition, only 60 out of 80 people could continue to participate in the next round of competition. The other 20 people were either killed or admitted defeat. In fact, there were 9 of the top 10 geniuses of Zhangzhou participating in the treasure pedestal meeting. The last one was from one of the 3 sects that had been eliminated. 9 geniuses were enough to make 9 people admit defeat. There were others who admitted defeat or were killed. After one round, there were only 60 people left. The number of people left would be even lower in the later rounds. In this round, one person from the Dragon God Valley was killed and 3 people admitted defeat. There were 11 people left. Out of these 11 people, 8 of them were defeated. They had scored 8 points. This score ranked them first among the top 10 sects for the time being. The Heavenly God sect was in second place with 6 points. They're only in the lead for now. Let's see where they'll rank when we kill those with points later. Luo Shuihan said coldly in the Heavenly God sect area. Next, Peyuan Gui put the names of the remaining 60 people into a box and started drawing lots again for the second round of matches. Lu Ming, Shiyu. Peyuan Gui announced the names. I didn't expect to be in the first round of the second round. Lu Ming smiled and stepped onto the fighting ring. At the same time, a young man jumped onto the fighting ring from the Heavenly God sect area. It's a disciple of the Heavenly God sect. Finally, a cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. You're not admitting defeat? Lu Ming asked. Why should I admit defeat to you? Do you think you can kill me? The Heavenly God sect's genius, Shiyu, sneered. Lu Ming smiled and didn't say anything. Begin. Peyuan Gui announced. When Peyuan Gui's voice fell, Shiyu moved and rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. He knew that he was no match for Lu Ming, but he had no problem rushing down the fighting ring. He had already obtained 1 point and didn't want to waste it. There was a hint of a smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. He moved and neared Shiyu in an instant. The black dragon spear appeared in his hands. It expanded rapidly and swept toward Shiyu. Shiyu was shocked. He didn't expect Lu Ming to be so fast. A milky white battle sword appeared in his hand. It was undoubtedly a holy weapon. He slashed at Lu Ming. Clang! The battle sword and the black dragon spear collided. Shiryu's body shook and slid back more than 10 meters. Lu Ming's body also shook. Lu Ming, your combat strength is only a so-so. Fight! Shiryu saw that Lu Ming only pushed him back more than 10 meters, and Lu Ming's body also shook. Shiryu's confidence was boosted. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He held the black dragon spear in his hand and started a battle with Shiryu. Of course, this was a battle that Lu Ming had deliberately created. He still had to bait later on. If he suddenly revealed too much of his combat power and killed his opponent, the other members of the Celestial Divine Sect would not dare to fight Lu Ming and would simply admit defeat. Therefore, Lu Ming had to perform well. He exchanged more than 10 moves with Shiryu before his spear pierced through Shiryu's dantian and killed him. The Heavenly God Sect's genius is only a so-so. Chapter 1692. Damn it! Luo Shuihan's face was gloomy. The Divine Sun, on the other hand, was expressionless. Well done, junior brother. After Lu Ming returned to the spectator stand, Tian Chui laughed. After that, the competition continued. Compared to the first round, this round was much more intense. Many people had gained points, so naturally, they wouldn't give up easily. Unless they encountered the top 10 geniuses, they would admit defeat if the difference was too great. Round after round. Without a doubt, the top 10 geniuses didn't even need to make a move before their opponents admitted defeat. In this round, Xuanixin was unlucky to encounter one of the top 10 geniuses, Wang Jian, so she had no choice but to admit defeat. As for Tian Chui, he was lucky enough to encounter another person of the same level. He defeated his opponent and gained 2 points. When the second round of 30 matches ended, another 16 people were eliminated. Only 44 people could continue to participate in the competition. Dragon God Valley still had 7 people, and they were still in first place. Then, the third round began. In this round, Lu Ming was unsure if his luck was good or bad. He actually encountered another first-stage half-saint, who didn't admit defeat. As soon as the competition began, he rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. Lu Ming didn't chase after him and allowed him to rush down the fighting ring. In this way, Lu Ming easily gained 3 points. Zifeng, of course, also won. He also gained 3 points. However, Tian Chui's luck came to an end. In this round, he also encountered one of the top 10 geniuses, and it was Mo Yang. Tian Chui admitted defeat, which made Mo Yang snort coldly. Tian Chui had mocked Mo Yang many times. If Tian Chui didn't admit defeat, Mo Yang would definitely kill him. After the third round of the competition ended, there were only 30 people left. As the competition progressed, the number of people would get smaller and smaller. Therefore, in theory, there were 80 people in the beginning. In reality, there was no need to fight so many battles. In the fourth round, there were only 30 people fighting. The cultivation of these 30 people could be said to be very strong. At this point, the first stage half-saints had all been eliminated. The rest were second stage half-saints. Of course, the others didn't know Lu Ming's specific cultivation because Lu Ming had been hiding it with his illusory breath. Peyuan Gui continued to draw lots. This round of battles was undoubtedly even more intense. Many people had similar cultivation levels, so they naturally wouldn't admit defeat so easily. The battle was incomparably intense. Perhaps it was due to luck, but the top 10 geniuses still did not encounter each other in this round. Instead, they defeated their opponents separately. Lu Ming met a second-stage semi-sage opponent in this round. His opponent naturally wouldn't admit defeat. So, he fought a fierce battle with Lu Ming. And, Lu Ming deliberately entangled with his opponent for dozens of moves. Then, he finally knocked his opponent out of the battle arena. After this round, there were still 26 people left. Dragon God Valley was still in the lead. Humph, that Lu Ming won't be arrogant for long. Someone from the Heavenly Divinity sect said unhappily. Then the fifth round, the sixth round, slowly, the number of people dwindled. After the eighth round, there were only 18 people left. Lu Ming's luck was surprisingly good. He didn't encounter any of the top 10 evildoers. He won all the way and obtained 8 points. As for the top 10 monsters, they did not encounter each other either. At this time, the ninth round began. Wang Jian and Mo Yang. At this time, Yuan Gui's voice was heard, which shocked many people. Are the top 10 monsters finally going to collide? Here comes the highlight. Now, there were only 18 people left, including 9 of the top 10 monsters. They were definitely going to encounter each other. Next was the real exciting part of the treasure sorting convention. Previously, the top 10 monsters had defeated everyone else, and each of them had obtained 8 points. But now, some people's points would stop increasing, while others would continue to increase. The total points of the top 10 sects would be pulled apart. Wang Jian and Mo Yang stepped into the battle arena and looked at each other. Mo Yang, you were no match for me 3 years ago. This time, you are no match for me either. Wang Jian said. Sword chi surged from his body. Wang Jian was a peerless monster from the Nine Heaven Sword sect. He had strong combat strength and unparalleled swordsmanship. 3 years ago, before Luo Shuihan's rise, Wang Jian was ranked second among the top 10 evildoers. He was competing with the Divine Sun. Unfortunately, he was not only defeated by the Divine Sun, but also by Luo Shuihan, dropping to third place. How will we know if we don't fight? I must defeat you in this battle. Mo Yang said. Demonic qi surged from his body, making him look like a demon god. When the referee announced the start of the battle, the two men moved at the same time. Sword shakes the 9 heavens. Demonic roars to the world. The two men were old rivals. As soon as they attacked, they burst out with all their strength. There was no need to test each other. In the fierce confrontation, the Dharma permeated the battle arena. Roars continued to sound as terrifying collisions occurred. In the surroundings, everyone was watching without blinking. Many people were shocked and exclaimed repeatedly, marveling at the battle prowess of the two. However, after watching for a while, Lu Ming lost interest. He had seen this kind of combat strength many times in the 100-clan battlefield, so he was not interested. Mo Yang and Wang Jian exchanged hundreds of blows. In the end, Wang Jian gained the upper hand and defeated Mo Yang, continuing to win. Of course, Mo Yang was defeated, so he could continue to fight. Mo Yang's face was cold as he returned to the spectator stand. The battle continued. Next, after 2 more battles, another heavyweight battle was ushered in. It was another battle between the top 10 monsters. Zifeng was fighting against the Heavenly King Hall's monster, Wang Kong. This battle could be said to be evenly matched. The two men exchanged hundreds of blows, and in the end, Zifeng won by a slight margin and won. Lu Ming, Lu Yuan. The voice of breaking Yuan returns rang out. Lu Yuan, from the Celestial God sect. Lu Ming finally came to his senses. He took a step forward and appeared on the battle arena. Finally, he met another genius from the Celestial God sect. Lu Yuan stepped onto the battle arena and stood opposite Lu Ming. Lu Ming, it seems that there is no need for senior brother Luo Shuihan to make a move. You will die at my hands. Lu Yuan's eyes were cold, and his whole body emitted a cold metallic luster. His aura was extremely powerful. Lu Yuan's combat strength was very strong. He also had a superior earth spiritual body, and his cultivation had reached the 3rd stage of the half-saint realm. In the Zhangzhou, he was second only to the top 10 monsters. In fact, of the remaining 18 people, 9 were monsters, while the other 9 were second only to the top 10 monsters. Each of them was a top genius, and they were all eyeing the top 10 monsters. You talk too much nonsense. Lu Ming said faintly. Kill. After the referee announced the start of the battle, Lu Yuan roared and rushed toward Lu Ming. The metallic luster on his body became even more intense, and his whole person seemed to have turned into a piece of metal. What he cultivated was not the core cultivation method of the Celestial God sect, the sacred light technique. It was only because his spiritual body did not match, but it was still very terrifying. Boom! Lu Ming threw out a punch and collided with Lu Yuan's. Clang! Chapter 1693. Not bad. You can take one of my punches. Come again. Lu Yuan roared and took a step forward. His body was like a metal mountain as he charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming poured his true essence into the flowing essence gloves as he exchanged blows with Lu Yuan. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. Lu Ming is so strong. He can actually fight Lu Yuan. It's indeed amazing. Could it be that Lu Ming has been holding back? Look, Lu Ming's aura is completely exposed. He's in the 2nd stage of the half-step saint realm. It's really the 2nd stage of the half-step saint realm. It's amazing that a 2nd stage half-step saint has such strong combat strength. Many people exclaimed in surprise. Previously, Lu Ming was able to defeat a second-stage half-step saint genius. That was because Lu Ming had used dozens of blows to defeat his opponent. But now, Lu Ming could actually fight Lu Yuan. Everyone was shocked. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged dozens of blows. Damn it! Lu Yuan roared in his heart. He couldn't take down Lu Ming and began to feel anxious. It's about time. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then, he formed a seal with both hands. 6 doors of sealing appeared and sealed Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's movements suddenly stiffened. Not good. Lu Yuan turned pale with fright. Kill. Lu Ming took out the black dragon spear and stabbed at Lu Yuan's dantian. Puchi. The black dragon spear pierced Lu Yuan's dantian. Lu Yuan let out an unwilling roar and died. Lu Yuan is dead. Many people were shocked. What a powerful sealing technique. It turns out that Lu Ming is good at sealing techniques. I know now. He has been hiding it and deliberately fought Lu Yuan. Then, he suddenly used the Book of Seals to freeze Lu Yuan, who was caught off guard. Then, he killed Lu Yuan in one fell swoop. Indeed, this is Lu Ming's tactic. Lu Yuan was too careless. Many people were discussing, thinking that Lu Ming died because of his own carelessness. In the stands, Luo Shuihan's gaze was as cold as a knife. Lu Ming had actually killed Lu Yuan. This way, the heavenly divinity sect would be at a disadvantage. Once Lu Yuan died, his points would return to 0. That would be extremely disadvantageous to the heavenly divinity sect's total points. Originally, the heavenly god sect had a great advantage among the remaining 18 people. Because of the remaining 18 people, 3 of them were from the heavenly god sect. In addition to Luo Shuihan, there was another genius who was similar to Lu Yuan. Moreover, a genius like Lu Yuan would not be killed even when facing the top 10 monstrous geniuses. If he wanted to rush down the battle platform, the top 10 monstrous geniuses would not be able to kill him. If this continued, the celestial god sect's points would soon surpass the dragon god valleys. At that time, as long as he killed Lu Ming, even if he didn't kill Lu Ming, as long as he obtained first place, the celestial god sect would be able to secure first place. But who would have thought that Lu Yuan would be killed by Lu Ming due to his carelessness? Now the heavenly divinity sect was a little mysterious. Lu Ming must die. Luo Shuihan thought to himself. Luo Shuihan, it's your turn next. I will send you to accompany Lu Yuan. Lu Ming pulled out his bloodied spear and pointed it at Luo Shuihan, then returned to the spectator stand. Then, the battle continued. The next battle piqued the crowd's interest again. Luo Xiang against a monstrous genius. Luo Xiang had previously displayed terrifying combat strength. Once he used the life and death sword art, no one could defeat him. It was amazing that he had reached this stage as a stage 2 half-saint. Now, how would he perform when facing one of the top 10 monstrous geniuses? But when the battle began, everyone's jaws dropped. The sword radiance swept across, completely suppressing the monstrous genius. In just a dozen moves, the monstrous genius was in danger and almost had his throat slit. In the end, he used all his strength to rush down the battle platform in an injured state. This made everyone dumbfounded. They could not believe it. A stage 2 half-saint had defeated one of the top 10 monstrous geniuses. This kind of combat strength was really shocking. He's so powerful. I'm no match for him. Zifeng said with a bitter expression. The other monstrous geniuses looked solemn as they watched Luo Xiang's proud figure in the battle platform. How could the life and death sword faction have such a person? Luo Shuihan's expression was the worst among the crowd. If Luo Xiang was so powerful now, he would be no match for him after he broke through the bottleneck of the law. Wouldn't the top monstrous genius in the Tsang prefecture change in the future? No, I have to find a chance to get rid of Luo Xiang in the future. Luo Shuihan's eyes flashed with coldness. He could not let others take away his throne as the top monstrous genius in the Tsang prefecture. Luo Xiang's sword art is sometimes fast and sometimes slow. It's unpredictable. Could it be the legendary law of speed? Lu Ming's eyes showed that he was pondering. Lu Ming had obtained part of the 9 dragons' memory fragments, so his knowledge was naturally far above the others. He could tell that the law Luo Xiang comprehended was most likely the law of speed. In the world, the top 10 supreme laws were undoubtedly the strongest. However, below the 10 supreme laws, there were still some laws that were extremely terrifying, far surpassing ordinary laws. The law of speed was at this level, second only to the 10 supreme laws. After Luo Xiang, it was Luo Shuihan's turn to fight with another genius. That genius was second only to the top 10 monstrous geniuses, but he was completely powerless against Luo Shuihan. He was suppressed by Luo Shuihan, and in the end, he was killed by Luo Shuihan before he could even escape from the battle platform. After killing his opponent, Luo Shuihan looked coldly at Lu Ming, full of provocation. Lu Ming had merely killed Lu Yuan due to Lu Yuan's carelessness. However, Lu Ming had completely suppressed and killed his opponent with his terrifying abilities. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not bother with Luo Shuihan. Junior Lu Ming, Luo Shuihan's combat strength is even more terrifying than it was 3 years ago. If you are not confident in winning against him, just admit defeat. Zifeng sighed. Luo Shuihan's combat strength was too terrifying. Even he could only survive against Luo Shuihan. There was no chance of winning at all. My master won't lose. If that Luo Shuihan meets my master, he'll definitely be beaten until he pisses his pants. Xiang was unhappy and pouted at Lu Ming. In Xiang's eyes, Lu Ming was the strongest. How could he lose to others? Okay, your master is the strongest. Zifeng smiled bitterly. Humph, of course. Only then did the little girl smile. This little girl. Lu Ming patted Xiang's little head dotingly. The following battles were extremely intense. The remaining geniuses of the Tsang state naturally did not admit defeat. The battles were extremely intense. After the end of this round, there were 16 people left. The Divine Dragon Valley was still in the lead. A new round had begun. The first battle was between Zifeng and Wang Jian. In fact, at this stage, the method of drawing lots was no longer used, because some people had already fought. If they drew lots and drew the same 2 people again, wouldn't they have to fight again? There was no need for that. Next, it was completely up to Peyuan to rank himself. Zifeng tried his best, but unfortunately, he was defeated by Wang Jian. Lu Ming, Luo Shuihan. Chapter 1694. Lu Ming, Luo Shuihan. Many people's eyes lit up when they heard these 2 names. Lu Ming had finally met Luo Shuihan. Many people were guessing whether Lu Ming would admit defeat. After all, if he didn't, Luo Shuihan would not let Lu Ming go. Is it finally time? It's earlier than I expected. Well, I don't have to hide my strength anymore after I've dealt with Luo Shuihan. Lu Ming smiled. He had been hiding his strength because he was waiting for Luo Shuihan. Otherwise, Lu Ming could kill these so-called geniuses with one punch. It wouldn't take much effort for him to do so. However, Luo Shuihan wouldn't dare to fight with him and would admit defeat immediately. Ha ha ha, I've finally met Lu Ming. Luo Shuihan was overjoyed. Senior brother Luo, you must kill Lu Ming and avenge senior brother Lu Yuan. In my opinion, there's no hope. Lu Ming must be scared shitless when he meets senior brother Luo. He won't have the courage to fight and will admit defeat immediately. You're right. After all, it's better to be a coward than to be killed. The disciples of the celestial sect spoke one after another. Their voices were loud and could be heard everywhere. Junior brother, don't fall for their provocation. Zifeng's expression changed. The people of the celestial sect were obviously saying this for Lu Ming to hear. They were afraid that Lu Ming would admit defeat immediately. Don't worry, senior brother. Lu Ming smiled and stepped out onto the fighting ring. At the same time, Luo Shuihan also landed on the fighting ring. Lu Ming, you'd better admit defeat. If you don't, you'll die. Luo Shuihan said coldly. His eyes were full of disdain. Luo Shuihan, you don't have to use such a despicable method to provoke me. However, as you wish, I won't surrender. Lu Ming said indifferently. Is that so? Luo Shuihan's eyes flashed with joy. The others were also shocked. Lu Ming didn't surrender. Was he going to fight with Luo Shuihan? Would he be able to survive Luo Shuihan's attack? Some of the people from Dragon God Valley looked worried. Lu Ming, I believe that this is not all you have. Within the territory of the Life and Death Sword faction, Luo Xiang carried a long sword on his back. His entire being was like an incomparably sharp sword as he stood there, muttering under his breath. Begin. At this moment, Origin Restoration's voice rang out. Kill. As soon as Pe Yuangui finished speaking, Luo Shuihan shouted loudly. Holy light burst forth, and a holy spear appeared in his hand. He leaped high into the air and stabbed down at Lu Ming. The spear pierced through the air at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it arrived in front of Lu Ming and stabbed towards Lu Ming's heart. Luo Shuihan wouldn't stab Lu Ming's dantian right from the start. Once the dantian was stabbed, the soul deity would collapse, and Lu Ming would die. Luo Shuihan wouldn't kill Lu Ming so easily. He wanted Lu Ming to suffer and let Lu Ming die in despair. Only then could he vent his hatred. Seeing that the spear was about to pierce Lu Ming's heart, many people's hearts were in their mouths. Why wasn't Lu Ming dodging? Could it be that Luo Shuihan was too fast and powerful, and had locked onto Lu Ming, making it difficult for Lu Ming to dodge? Such a thought appeared in many people's minds. At this moment, Lu Ming made his move. He stretched out a hand and grabbed the tip of the spear. Many people didn't even see how Lu Ming did it. Then, Luo Shuihan's spear stopped in the air, only a millimeter away from Lu Ming's chest. However, this millimeter couldn't pierce through. Kill! Luo Shuihan shouted. Holy light erupted, and the precepts flowed. He gathered all the strength in his body and poured it into the spear. The spear glowed and stabbed towards Lu Ming. However, it didn't move. The spear didn't move. Lu Ming's hand was like the hand of a god. It was as immovable as a mountain. How is this possible? How is this possible? Luo Shuihan's eyes almost popped out. He roared in his heart. It was simply unbelievable. He thought he was dreaming. He attacked with all the strength in his body, but it was caught by Lu Ming with one hand. He couldn't move at all. At this time, the others present were also dumbfounded. What was Luo Shuihan doing? Why was he frozen there? Is this all you've got? How disappointing. Lu Ming stared into Luo Shuihan's eyes and said indifferently. Looking into Lu Ming's eyes, Luo Shuihan's heart trembled. A chill spread throughout his body. At this moment, he knew that Lu Ming had been hiding his strength. Lu Ming's true strength was simply abnormal. He was no match for him. Retreat, retreat, retreat. At this time, there was only one word in Luo Shuihan's heart. However, it was too late. Buzz. The spear in his hand let out a buzzing sound. A terrifying force flowed from Lu Ming's hand through the spear and into his body. His body shook violently, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. Whoosh! Lu Ming held Luo Shuihan's spear and turned it around. He took a step forward and caught up with Luo Shuihan. The spear pierced through Luo Shuihan's heart and nailed him to the fighting ring. Ah! Luo Shuihan screamed. His body twisted violently and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Although the heart was a vital point, with Luo Shuihan's spiritual body, he wouldn't die in a short time. As long as he was treated properly, he would recover quickly. At this moment, the whole place was silent. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at the scene in disbelief. Luo Shuihan was nailed to the fighting ring by his own spear. How could this be? Luo Shuihan was powerless in Lu Ming's hands. He was as weak as a baby. Luo Shuihan was the number 1 demon in Cangzhou. Although it referred to the number 1 demon below the Saint Realm, it was still shocking enough. However, he was nothing in the hands of Lu Ming. At this moment, they all knew that Lu Ming must have been hiding his strength. He was waiting for Luo Shuihan. He deliberately hid his strength to wait for Luo Shuihan. This thought appeared in many people's minds. It was ridiculous that the people of the Celestial Sect and Luo Shuihan had tried to provoke Lu Ming into not admitting defeat. It was too ridiculous. It was probably what Lu Ming wanted. Boom! 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 At this moment, figures in the Celestial Sect's stands suddenly stood up. Their bodies emitted a shocking aura. They were all Saint Realm experts. They were shocked and couldn't calm down. Luo Shuihan was defeated? At that moment, the divine child's expression finally changed. His eyes were filled with holy light, revealing his sharpness. Lu Ming, let go of me. Luo Shuihan roared. Let go of you? Ridiculous. Lu Ming's true ether condensed into a blade. With a slash, one of Luo Shuihan's arms flew out. Luo Shuihan let out a shrill cry. You treated the disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley like this before. Now, I'll return it to you. Lu Ming spoke coldly. His primordial energy was like a saber, slashing down again. Blood splattered everywhere. Luo Shuihan's other arm flew out. No, Lu Ming, don't kill me. Spare me. Chapter 1695. Luo Shuihan screamed and begged for mercy. Before this, not even in his wildest dreams would he have thought that this would be the outcome. 3 years ago, Lu Ming was only a 4th-level martial royal realm cultivator. How could he be so powerful now? Even he, the top genius of Cangzhou, could not fight back. Luo Shuihan could not figure it out, but he just wanted to live. In the past, when he killed others, he looked down on them like ants. Now that it was his turn, Luo Shuihan realized how terrifying he was. Spare you? Is that possible? Don't you think it's funny? Lu Ming spoke nonchalantly, his tone full of disdain. Elder, save me, save me. Luo Shuihan screamed and begged the elders of the Celestial God sect for help. Lu Ming, you'd better let him go. An old man from the Heavenly God sect spoke. The aura that this old man exuded was extremely shocking. A vast saint aura spread out continuously, filling the area with an oppressive pressure. He was definitely a terrifying expert. He was far more powerful than an ordinary bright saint. He was a supreme saint. Huh, what a joke. You've lost the treasure sorting meeting and now you're threatening me. How shameless of a supreme saint. Purple Dragon Valley's Valley Master stood up and exuded a terrifying aura. He faced the supreme saint of the Celestial God sect and the atmosphere became even more oppressive. The supreme saint of the celestial god sect looked gloomy. He knew that he had gone overboard by interfering as a supreme saint. However, Luo Shuihan was very talented. He was second only to the divine son. If he didn't die, he would definitely become a saint in the future. It was even possible for him to become a supreme saint. He might even be able to become an absolute saint. How many supreme saints did the celestial god sect have in all these years? There were not many supreme saints in Zhangzhou. They had accumulated over the years. It would be a great loss for them to be killed by Lu Ming. Buzz! The black dragon spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. The spear light was shocking. Luo Shuihan, I'll send you to hell. Lu Ming said coldly. Luo Shuihan was scared out of his wits. He struggled and screamed. Lu Ming, you better think twice. The great saint of the heavenly god sect said coldly. Reconsider? I only need to think once before I kill someone, why would I need to think thrice? Lu Ming responded. The black dragon spear pierced through Luo Shuihan's dantian and destroyed his spiritual deity. Luo Shuihan let out a roar of unwillingness. His eyes were as wide as a dead fish's. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that his life would end like this. That he would be killed by Lu Ming in this place. Senior brother deity, avenge me. With a final roar, Luo Shuihan's life was extinguished. Luo Shuihan was dead. The great sages of the celestial divinity sect, as well as the other sage realm experts, burst forth with shocking auras. They looked coldly at Lu Ming, but in the end, they retracted their auras and sat down. This was the treasure ranking convention, and all the sects were present. If they broke the rules, they would be suppressed by the other sections. Luo Shuihan is dead. Many people murmured, still finding it hard to believe. Even the other geniuses felt the same way. They were somewhat stunned. The number one genius of the Zhangzhou state, the mountain that suppressed all the geniuses of the Zhangzhou state, was an insurmountable mountain. Yet, he was killed by Lu Ming so easily, which made them feel unreal. How could this be? How could this be? Mo Yang muttered to himself, as if he had been struck dumb. If Luo Shuihan was killed just like that, then what about him? How would he fare against Lu Ming? Thinking of this, he shuddered. How could Lu Ming's combat strength be so strong? I knew it. You were hiding your strength, but it was still beyond my expectations. Luo Xiang whispered, his eyes bursting with astonishing fighting spirit. However, in the next moment, his fighting spirit was completely retracted. Master is the most powerful. I knew Master was the most powerful. In the Dragon God Valley area, Lu Xiang exclaimed. She didn't seem to be surprised at all. In her heart, all of this was a matter of course. Well, my eyesight is not as good as a little girl's. Zifeng smiled bitterly. Ha ha ha, senior brother Zifeng, that's because you don't know Lu Ming. When you get to know him for a long time, you won't be surprised at what he does. Tian Chui laughed loudly. Tian Chui, Xuaningxin, Long Yuan Shan, and the others all knew what was going on. Previously, Lu Ming had said that he had a 50% chance of killing the divine child. Hence, it was natural that he would be able to kill Luo Shuihan easily. In the fighting ring, Lu Ming put away Luo Shuihan's storage ring and sacred weapon spear. These were his spoils of war, so he naturally wouldn't be polite. Then, with a shake of his spear, Luo Shuihan's body flew out of the fighting ring. Whoosh! Everyone was shocked and the black dragon spear pointed at the divine child. This was because the direction Lu Ming was pointing at was the divine child. Divine child, just you wait. You're next. Lu Ming pointed his spear at the divine child, his killing intent cold. I will send you down to accompany Luo Shuihan. The divine child said. As his eyes opened and closed, a terrifying sacred light flashed. All around, everyone was suddenly filled with anticipation. They were looking forward to the battle between Lu Ming and the Divine Child. Previously, most people thought that Lu Ming wasn't qualified to fight with the Divine Child at all. Perhaps he would be killed by the Celestial God sect at the treasure sorting convention. Even if he was lucky enough to pass the treasure sorting convention, he wouldn't stand a chance against the Divine Child. But now, they were suddenly filled with strong anticipation. Lu Ming had killed Luo Shuihan with a flip of his hand. He was simply unfathomable. Who knew if Lu Ming was hiding his strength? Perhaps he could really fight with the Divine Child? Buzz! In Lu Ming's hand, the black dragon spear shook, and the blood on it was shaken off. Then, he put away the black dragon spear and returned to the spectator stand. Now, let the battle continue. Peyuan Gui announced. The competition continued, but the rest of the competition was already dull and boring. Those who were watching didn't have the mood. They were all looking forward to the battle between Lu Ming and the Divine Child. Those who were fighting also didn't have the mood. With Lu Ming around, did they still have any hope of fighting for first place? With Lu Ming's combat strength, he could easily defeat them. Moreover, there was also Zifeng from the Dragon God Valley. Due to the fact that they had more people, they had been leading in points. So, how could the other sects compete? There was no longer any hope, so their battle was just a formality. Soon, the round ended, and the next round began. Lu Ming, Mo Yang. Peyuan Gui's voice rang out, and Mo Yang's face suddenly turned pale. Lu Ming and Mo Yang stepped onto the fighting ring and stood opposite each other. Mo Yang, you said that you would kill me. Wait a minute, you won't just admit defeat, right? I don't think you're that cowardly, right? Lu Ming said. Mo Yang gritted his teeth, and his face turned pale. Initially, he had intended to admit defeat. However, after hearing Lu Ming's words, if he admitted defeat, he would be admitting that he was a coward. Lu Ming was deliberately putting him on the spot. Begin. At this moment, Peyuan Gui announced. Bang! Lu Ming stepped out, and the fighting ring roared. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. Chapter 1696. As soon as the unification of shattered energy was announced, Mo Yang immediately admitted defeat. He didn't dare to delay at all, as he was afraid that he would be instantly killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming stopped in his tracks and said disdainfully, You really have no guts. You were all high and mighty before, saying that you were going to kill me. Where did that go? Mo Yang's face was red, and he wanted to find a hole to crawl into. He lowered his head and returned to the spectator's stand without replying. Now, the more he spoke, the more he would humiliate himself. He hated Lu Ming, but he didn't have the courage to fight Lu Ming to the death. Ninth junior brother, this result is within my expectations. He's just a coward who bullies the weak and fears the strong. Tian Chui said. That's right. The words of this kind of person are like farts to him. Xue Ningxin added. Burp, Mo Yang clenched his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Lu Ming, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. You'll still die at the hands of the Divine Child later. I'll tolerate you for now, but in the future, I'll kill all of these people from Dragon God Valley. Mo Yang roared in his heart. The competition continued. There was no suspense in the following competition. Anyone who met Lu Ming directly admitted defeat, including the top 10 geniuses. Junior brother Lu Ming, I admit defeat. I'm no match for you. Later, Zifeng also met Lu Ming and admitted defeat. Later, Lu Ming met Luo Xiang. Lu Ming thought that Luo Xiang would fight him, but he didn't expect Luo Xiang to shake his head and say, Lu Ming, we'll have another chance to spar in the future. I'm no match for you now. After saying that, he directly left the fighting ring. Just like that, Lu Ming defeated all of his opponents in a sweeping manner. All competitions in this year's treasure sorting convention are over. When the unification of shattered energy was announced, Dragon God Valley cheered enthusiastically. Dragon God Valley had won, and there was no need to calculate the points. They all knew that Dragon God Valley had won. Lu Ming had swept through everyone by himself. Adding on the 10 points awarded to him, there was no longer any suspense. The Divine Dragon Valley has won first place in this treasure sorting meeting. The 2 primordial treasures belong to the Divine Dragon Valley for safekeeping. We will compete again in 3 years. Pe Yuangue announced. Ha ha ha, now, give me the 2 treasures. The Purple Dragon Valley Master stood up and looked at the great sage of the Heavenly God sect. The great saints of the Heavenly Divinity sect were extremely indignant. He had brought the 2 treasures with him, but he had never thought of handing them over. With the Heavenly Divinity sect's lineup, it was certain that they would take first place this time. They did not expect the 4th-layer Martial Dominator Realm Kid who claimed to challenge the God Sun 3 years ago would possess such outstanding strength, killing Luo Shuihan and defeating the others, helping the Dragon God Valley to come first in the trial. Now, he had no choice but to hand it over. Damned little bastard, you can't even rest when you're about to die. The great sage of the Heavenly God sect roared in his heart. In his opinion, Lu Ming would definitely be killed by the Divine Sun. There was no doubt about it. There could not be another possibility. However, even if Lu Ming was dead, the Dragon God Valley would still come first in the trial and have the 2 treasures for 3 years. What is it? Why are you so hesitant? Are you not going to hand it over? The Purple Dragon Valley Master said with a hollow laugh. Fine, you won't be able to discover anything in 3 years. The great sage of the Heavenly Divinity sect said coldly. It had been so many years, and one of the 2 treasures was said to contain the secret to achieving the martial monarch realm. However, no one had managed to discover anything after so many years. He did not believe that the Dragon God Valley would be able to discover anything in 3 years. He took out a storage ring and threw it to the Purple Dragon Valley Master. The Purple Dragon Valley Master received it and scanned it with his spiritual sense. Lu Ming's eyes flickered too. He was not too interested in the other treasure. He was hoping to obtain the fragment of the prison-suppressing boulder. Bang! The sky buzzed as a powerful pressure descended. The God Sun stood in the air, his body glowing with sacred light. He stood above the fighting ring and looked down at Lu Ming coldly. Many people were shocked. Were the God Sun and Lu Ming going to fight? Lu Ming, I'll give you time to recover. The God Sun said coldly. Why do I need to recover? We can fight now. Lu Ming swept his gaze toward the Divine Sun. He rose into the air and stood opposite him. There was no doubt that Lu Ming and the God Sun had become the focus of attention. Are they finally going to fight? Someone murmured. In fact, many people had come to the treasure convention to watch the battle between Lu Ming and the God Sun. Do you think Lu Ming can fight the God Sun? It'll be difficult. The God Sun entered the Saint Realm a year and a half ago, but Lu Ming is only a half-saint. Moreover, he's only in the 2nd stage. The gap is too big. It's almost impossible for a non-saint level battle saint to fight. Moreover, the God Sun is stronger than the average saint realm. Lu Ming has no hope. Many people discussed, and some sighed. They thought that Lu Ming was no match for the God Sun. Go Master! Beat him! Xiang Xiang waved her little fist. Long Yuanshan, Yang Tianzong, Tian Shui, Xuaningxin, and the others watched quietly. They could not help but worry. Sacred light danced on the God Sun. Even his eyes turned into milky white sacred light. He said coldly, Lu Ming, although your combat strength is not bad, I'll let you know the difference between a non-saint level battle saint and a saint realm. Bam! The God Son stepped out like the Son of God. Sacred light burst forth, and a powerful aura pressed down on Lu Ming. Then, he slapped out, and a huge palm print of sacred light pressed down on Lu Ming. Sacred power surged, and the precepts flowed. It was extremely terrifying. You're only using the power of a luminous saint realm? You're really looking down on me. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. He did not dodge and threw a punch. Lu Ming's fist shone, and the shadow of a tablet could be vaguely seen. Boom! An earth-shattering roar sounded. The huge palm print of sacred light was shattered by Lu Ming's punch. Lu Ming rushed through the sacred light and attacked the God Son. Many people were shocked. Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying. He directly broke the God Son's attack and took the initiative to attack the God Son. Could Lu Ming really have the combat strength of a saint realm? At the thought of this, many people widened their eyes and held their breaths. They stared at the scene without blinking, afraid that they would miss the key scene. The God Son's eyes turned cold. His palms emitted a bright sacred light, as if they were two pieces of milky white sacred stone. They were crystal clear and holy. Swoosh! 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 His palms continued to attack Lu Ming. They were extremely terrifying, as if they could destroy everything. Lu Ming's palms flowed with the law of primal chaos as he used the suppressing hell skill. He was not afraid at all, and continued to attack. Dong! 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 Dense collisions sounded. Lu Ming and the God Son had collided hundreds of times in an instant. Every time they collided, there was a dull roar in the sky. The two of them crossed each other like two streams of light. Some of the weaker cultivators could not see them clearly. Dong! After the last attack, the two of them kept retreating. However, Lu Ming only retreated 3 steps, while the God Son retreated 9 steps. The God Son was at a disadvantage. Chapter 1697. This is impossible. Everyone in the celestial divine sect roared in their hearts, finding it difficult to accept all of this. In their hearts, the divine child, who was invincible among his peers, had actually been forced into a disadvantageous position by a half-saint with his cultivation of the saint realm. This was simply like a fantasy story. How is this possible? How is this possible? Mo Yang shook his head again and again as he roared in his heart. All this time, he had never taken Lu Ming seriously, thinking that he could easily crush Lu Ming. However, he did not expect that this time, his imagination would be completely overturned. Previously, Lu Ming had easily killed Luo Shuihan, which made his heart tremble. Facing Lu Ming, he did not even dare to fight and directly admitted defeat. He thought that Lu Ming would definitely die at the hands of the divine child. However, he now realized that Lu Ming had not used much of his strength before, and now, he could actually suppress the divine child. Why is he so strong? Why am I not the strong one? Who is Lu Ming? What qualifications does he have to have such combat strength? Mo Yang roared in his heart, feeling extremely jealous. Lu Ming, you really did not disappoint me, but this is far from enough. In the celestial divine sect area, Xian Yinjuan's eyes sparkled as he whispered in his heart. On the other hand, the Dragon God Valley was already cheering. Divine child, is this your combat strength? It doesn't seem to work. Lu Ming's slightly mocking voice rang out. There was a trace of surprise in the divine child's eyes as he said, Lu Ming, your combat strength is indeed beyond my expectations. Unfortunately, you have met me, so you are destined to die. Bang! The divine child stepped out, and the holy light on his body became even more intense, turning into a pillar of light that shot into the sky. Bang! Bang! Next, the Son of God took one step at a time toward Lu Ming. With every step he took, the aura on his body became stronger. In the end, the Son of God's aura was so powerful that it was several times stronger than before. Great achievement of the Bright Saint Realm. In the Dragon God Valley, the Purple Dragon Valley Master could not help but let out a cry of surprise. What? The Son of God has already reached the great success stage of the Bright Saint Realm. So fast? The Great Bright Sage Realm is several times stronger than the Small Bright Sage Realm. Lu Ming is finished. The deity's cultivation is too high. Lu Ming is no match for him. What a pity. Lu Ming is indeed incomparably powerful and rarely seen since ancient times. If he was given a few more years, he might even be able to fight against a divine child. Heaven is jealous of geniuses. The time given to him is too short. Many people sighed, some shook their heads, but there were also some who rejoiced in Lu Ming's misfortune, hoping that he would be killed. For example, Silver Dragon Valley's Yin Zisong and the others all had ferocious expressions on their faces, hoping that Lu Ming would be killed. The strength Lu Ming displayed this time was too shocking. If Lu Ming was not killed, where would there be room for them in Dragon God Valley in the future? Lu Ming, you will die in the end. Mo Yang was laughing in his heart, but his face was full of malevolence. Wang! Above the deity's head, a small snow-white pagoda emerged and rapidly grew in size. At the same time, a battle sword appeared in his hand, covered in holy light. There was no doubt that these were all sacred weapons. Wang! The small snow-white pagoda grew to the size of a mountain and suppressed Lu Ming. With the deity's great bright sage realm cultivation, the power of the sacred weapon was extremely powerful. At this moment, light spots appeared on Lu Ming's body, and from each light spot, a sacred weapon flew out. A total of 36 sacred weapons were suspended around him. The others were dumbfounded, and they almost bit their tongues. 36 sacred weapons. Lu Ming had taken out 36 sacred weapons all of a sudden. Most of the people were dumbfounded. Most people had never even touched a sacred weapon, and had only seen others use it. But now, Lu Ming had taken out 36 sacred weapons all of a sudden. It was infuriating to compare oneself to others. What's the use of having so many sacred weapons? The deity said coldly. The huge pagoda shone and suddenly pressed down. Around Lu Ming, the 36 sacred weapons aura connected with each other and converged on a large cauldron. Go! Lu Ming waved his hand, and the large cauldron rapidly grew in size and collided with the huge pagoda. Boom! Like two mountains colliding, the sky shook violently. After the large cauldron and the huge pagoda collided, they were evenly matched and retreated together. Kill! The deity held a long spear in his hand and charged at Lu Ming. The long spear pierced the air and made a terrible whistling sound. Lu Ming was not afraid at all. He grabbed the black dragon spear next to him, and the aura of the sacred weapon gathered and the precepts circulated as he charged at the deity. The light collided in the void, and the force was rampant, sweeping in all directions. Around them, powerhouses like Valley Master Purple Dragon waved their hands and laid down a defensive light screen. Otherwise, those below the Saint Realm would have died if they were hit by the force. Great Saint Light Technique! The deity roared, and the sacred light on his body became even brighter. In the end, it turned into a sacred light armor that covered the deity. The deity's power was even stronger. The deity's spear of punishment pierced through the void, and there was nothing it could not destroy. The deity began to suppress Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and activated the divine sword art. Two pitch-black rays of light burst out from his eyes and rushed into the deity's forehead. The deity's forehead shone brightly, and the deity only shook slightly, as if nothing had happened. Lu Ming's current soul power was equivalent to the Bright Saint initial success, but the deity was an existence of the Bright Saint great success, and most likely had a way to defend the soul. Lu Ming's divine sword art had little effect on the deity. Chaos. Lu Ming whispered. A chaos-flipping sky seal appeared in his left hand, and he threw it at the deity. The chaos-flipping sky seal grew rapidly and pressed down, making the deity's face turn grave. He controlled the giant pagoda to crash against the chaos-flipping sky seal, but the deity's spear of punishment in his hand did not stop, and he attacked Lu Ming. Lu Ming held the black dragon spear in his hand to meet the attack. Boom! The giant pagoda was sent flying, but the chaos-flipping sky seal disappeared without a trace. Again. Lu Ming condensed another chaos-flipping sky seal in his hand, and he attacked the deity. Lu Ming condensed the chaos-flipping sky seal while fighting the deity with the 10,000 soldier art. For a moment, the two were evenly matched, and the battle became a draw. They kept colliding in the void, and it was extremely fierce. Lu Ming was at a disadvantage in terms of cultivation, as he was only in the second stage of the half-saint realm. Back in the 100-tribe battlefield, Lu Ming, his second body, and Bubble had killed an existence of the Bright Saint great success in a few moves. But that was because the three of them worked together. If Lu Ming's main body was alone, he could at most suppress the existence of the Bright Saint great success slightly, but he definitely could not kill the other party. But now, Lu Ming had 36 saint weapons sealed in his body, and he had cultivated in seclusion in the Dragon God Valley for more than a month. He had finally cultivated the chaos-flipping sky seal to the 6th level. Lu Ming's main body's overall combat power was stronger than when he was in the 100-tribe battlefield. However, because the saints outside could operate their precepts more smoothly, their battle prowess was stronger than the saints in the 100-tribe battlefield. Chapter 1698. Lu Ming and the deity fought fiercely. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than 100 blows. At this moment, everyone present was no longer shocked, but numb. They were numb to Lu Ming's combat strength. Lu Ming's combat strength had exceeded their imagination. They had never heard of a Stage 2 half-saint being able to fight against a greater achievement Bright Sage Saint. Moreover, the other party was a demonic genius. Everyone was only focused on the final outcome of this battle. Everyone held their breaths and clenched their fists. They watched nervously without blinking. They knew that this battle was destined to be recorded in the history of Zhangzhou. It would be known as a pinnacle battle. Lu Ming's main body was surrounded by 36 sacred weapons. He held the chaotic sky-flipping seal in his hand. He looked like a god of war. On the other hand, the deity's pagoda floated above his head. He held the spear of divine punishment and was covered in sacred light armor. He looked like the Son of God. The two fought in the void and exchanged more than 10 blows. At this moment, the deity's son started to feel anxious. Even with his cultivation level, he still couldn't take down Lu Ming. He was extremely shocked. Lu Ming must die. If this continues, I won't be his match in a few years. The deity's son couldn't accept this thought. However, he knew that it was the truth. Therefore, he had to kill Lu Ming today. Sword of Sacred Light. The deity shouted. A snow-white sword flew out from between his eyebrows. As soon as the sword appeared, Sword Chi soared into the sky and stirred up the clouds. Great sacred weapon, damn it! The Purple Dragon Valley's Valley Master shouted furiously. The others in Dragon God Valley were also shocked. The deity had refined a great sacred weapon. A great sacred weapon was much stronger than an ordinary bright sage weapon. It was the exclusive sacred weapon of a supreme saint. Lu Ming and the deity's son were evenly matched. However, the great sacred weapon had broken the balance. Sword of Sacred Light, slash. The deity put away the spear in his hand and held the sword of sacred light. He slashed out and a terrifying sword light slashed toward Lu Ming. Boom! This sword strike struck the primal chaos cyclic sky seal that was bombarding him. The primal chaos cyclic sky seal shook violently before exploding in the air. Then, the Son of God stepped forward with his sword in hand and slashed at Lu Ming again. The black dragon spear in Lu Ming's hand swept out towards his opponent. Clang! The radiant sword struck the black dragon spear, causing it to vibrate violently. Lu Ming felt a terrifyingly sharp qi surge towards him, causing him to involuntarily retreat. The holy light sword did not stop and continued to slash at him. Lu Ming's mind moved, and the holy weapons around him blocked in front of him. They were all defensive types. Boom! Boom! The saint weapons vibrated and several of them were sent flying. Lu Ming had to retreat several steps before he was able to block the attack. Now that the Divine Sun had taken out his great sage weapon, his battle prowess had increased greatly. Lu Ming was already at a disadvantage. Kill! The Son of God held his sword and charged towards Lu Ming again. Holy weapons danced around Lu Ming as he activated his battle weapon qi and fought with his opponent. After the previous battle, Lu Ming stopped using the primal chaos cyclic sky seal. Although the primal chaos cyclic sky seal was powerful, it consumed too much energy. If he continued to use it, he would definitely run out of true essence. Kill! The Son of God shouted. His killing intent was wild as he launched a torrential attack on Lu Ming. Up until now, he had not killed Lu Ming. To him, it was a great humiliation. He wanted to kill Lu Ming as soon as possible. Lu Ming blocked with the 10,000 weapon art, but he kept retreating. He was suppressed by the Son of God. Swoosh! After blocking the Son of God's sword strike, Lu Ming soared into the sky. You want to leave? You can't. The Son of God said coldly. He soared into the sky and charged towards Lu Ming. Who said I'm leaving? Lu Ming's voice was heard. At this moment, Lu Ming's glabella shone and a figure walked out. Ming Lian's second body. As soon as the second body appeared, the Tai Chi array disc floated in the air. A Tai Chi pattern suppressed the Son of God. At the same time, Lu Ming's main body also attacked. He looked down from above and became one with his spear. He turned into a dazzling spear radiance and swooped down towards the Son of God. The Tai Chi array disc had the power of sealing and destruction. It floated above the Son of God, trying to seal and destroy him. Whoosh! Lu Ming's main body's attack arrived. The spear radiance pierced towards the Son of God's glabella. Holy light burst out from the Son of God's body. He roared and slashed out with his sword, hitting Lu Ming's spear radiance. Boom! The Son of God's body fell. Kill! Ming Lian's second body controlled the Tai Chi array disc and continued to suppress the Son of God. At the same time, he operated the array law. Endless runes spread out and formed a battle sword that slashed towards the Son of God. Lu Ming's main body continued to attack. The main body and the second body joined forces, not giving the Son of God a chance to catch his breath. Everyone present was dumbfounded. How could there be two Lu Mings at the scene? How dare you use two against one? You've broken the rules. The great sage of the celestial god sect shouted, his eyes cold. Are you blind? I can't tell. The aura of the two Lu Mings is exactly the same. They're clearly the same person. This is just a secret technique. Although the Valley Master of Purple Dragon Valley was shocked, he sneered and refuted the great sage of the celestial god sect. That's right. This is just a secret technique. The two of them are actually the same person, just like clones. What's wrong with that? If you're so capable, ask the Son of God to use his clones too. Tian Chui said. Humph, it's not your turn to interrupt and the elders are talking. You're so insolent. The great sage of the celestial god sect waved his sleeves, then turned his head coldly without saying a word. Indeed, Lu Ming's main body and second body had the same aura and soul fluctuations. They were clearly the same person, just like clones. However, they were much more advanced than clones. The two bodies could cultivate different cultivation techniques and comprehend different laws. This was simply unbelievable. No matter what, since they were the same person, it was not against the rules. Asking the Son of God to use his clones was a joke. The strength of the clones was only a fraction of the real body's strength. Moreover, using the clones now would only weaken the combat power of the real body. It was not wise at all. Lu Ming's main body and second body attacked continuously. The attacks were like a storm, not giving the Son of God a chance to catch his breath. The situation had completely reversed from before. Now, it was the Son of God who was at a disadvantage. Lu Ming kept attacking. Is the Son of God going to lose? It can't be. A non-saint is going to kill a saint? Oh my God, this is too terrifying. Many people could not hide the shock in their hearts and exclaimed. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to force the Son of God to this extent. No wonder I lost to you and the Xia family in the Divine Wilderness continent. However, this is not enough. The Son of God still has a secret technique that he hasn't used yet. Xie Ninjuan's eyes flickered with surprise as he muttered. Lu Ming's main body and second body attacked continuously. They cooperated with each other and their power increased greatly. Son of God, is this all you've got? It seems like you're the one who will die today. Chapter 1699. Xian Yinqing had told him that the deity had another secret technique. Once he cast it, his strength would increase tremendously for a short period of time. He had to be on guard. Lu Ming, you're courting death. You forced me to do this. Holy explosion technique. The deity roared. Boom. At this moment, the deity's body glowed with holy light. The holy light armor on his body exploded and turned into holy light that entered the deity's body. At this moment, the deity's aura skyrocketed and rushed toward the peak of the bright sage realm. What? The deity has another secret technique. What a terrifying secret technique. His aura has begun to skyrocket. It's so powerful, and it's still rising. Even his aura has changed. Many people exclaimed. Roar. At this moment, the deity let out a beast-like roar. His eyes turned red, and there was a trace of ferocity on his face. The pure white holy light on his body was no longer pure, and there was a trace of blood in it. Lu Ming, die. The deity roared and slashed out with his sword. The Tai Chi pattern was broken by the sword and dissipated in the air. At the same time, the sword light struck Lu Ming's long spear. Lu Ming's body shook violently. He felt an irresistible force coming at him, and his body flew into the sky. Kill! The deity roared. He took a step forward and charged forward. The sword light was shocking, as if it could destroy everything. Countless runes appeared on the second body and turned into various weapons that flew toward the deity. At the same time, the Tai Chi array plate shone and another Tai Chi pattern appeared. Then, the Tai Chi pattern split into two and turned into a pair of yin and yang fish swords that slashed toward the deity. Bam! 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 The deity's sword light easily destroyed the various weapons formed by the second body's array principles. The sword light struck the yin and yang fish swords. Clang! Clang! Sparks flew in all directions, and the sword chi was rampant. The yin and yang fish swords were sent flying. Buzz! In the sky, a huge chaotic cyclic sky seal pressed down on the deity. Behind the chaotic cyclic sky seal, Lu Ming swooped down with 36 sacred weapons and attacked the deity. Holy slash, break! The divine child roared and slashed out with his sword. A beam of sword chi of saint light shot up into the sky. It was tens of thousands of feet tall, as if it could split the world in two, and slashed at the chaotic flipping sky seal. Sizzle! When the sword light struck the primal chaos flipping sky seal, an ear-piercing sound was heard. The sword light was actually breaking through the primal chaos flipping sky seal quickly. Bang! In the end, the primal chaos flipping sky seal exploded. The sword light did not stop and collided with Lu Ming behind the primal chaos flipping sky seal. Terrifying vibrations continued to ring out as Lu Ming's saint weapons were sent flying one by one. Lu Ming's body was once again sent flying into the air. What a powerful force! Lu Ming was also shocked. After the deity used his secret technique, his strength increased by several times. However, Lu Ming was not afraid. Instead, his eyes revealed a strong fighting spirit. Fight! 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 Lu Ming did not retreat. Instead, he closed in. His main body and second body attacked the deity at the same time. All kinds of attacks bombarded the deity. The deity held the Supreme Saint Battle Sword in his hand. A beam of sword light slashed out and destroyed Lu Ming's various attacks. Then, the battle sword continued to slash out. Beams of dazzling sword light surged toward Lu Ming. Bang! 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 Explosions continued as Lu Ming's various attacks were destroyed. His body retreated. Kill! The deity turned into a beam of sword light and shot up into the sky, attacking Lu Ming's main body. Clang! 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 The sword light bloomed, and the saint weapons that surrounded Lu Ming were sent flying one by one. In fact, a crack had appeared on one of the shields after being slashed by the battle sword. Lu Ming, you are dead meat today. The deity said coldly as he continued to attack Lu Ming. Swoosh! A beam of sword light almost split Lu Ming's body in half. Lu Ming did not call out Bubble for help. Bubble was a spiritual beast and was not considered within his combat strength. If he called out Bubble, the supreme saint of the celestial god sect would probably intervene. He could only rely on himself. Whoosh! Lu Ming's main body retreated quickly. His second body stepped forward and controlled the Tai Chi array disc to suppress the deity. Clang! The deity's sword slashed the Tai Chi array disc. The Tai Chi array disc shook and was sent flying. It was not that the Tai Chi array disc was weak, but that the second body's cultivation was limited and could not unleash much of its power. Kill! The deity charged toward Lu Ming's main body again as if he had his eyes on Lu Ming's main body. Lu Ming tried his best to block, but he was no match for the deity. He was in danger and was almost cut in half again. He narrowly avoided the attack. Lu Ming is out of tricks. He is using all his strength. Yes, he is strong enough. But he is no match for the deity. He is going to die here. What a pity. At this point in the battle, it was obvious that Lu Ming had used all his strength. Unfortunately, he was no match for the deity. Poof! The sword light swept across Lu Ming's body and a bloody wound appeared. Blood flowed out. Lu Ming, you don't have a chance anymore. The divine sun bellowed. His attacks were like a violent storm. Lu Ming was in danger. But even in danger, Lu Ming's face was still calm. He used the law of chaos to the extreme and fought with the deity. At the same time, his second body also continuously attacked the deity. The law of chaos. Deity, I will use you to break through the law of chaos. In danger, Lu Ming was exceptionally calm. His essence, energy, and spirit were highly concentrated. The true origin in his body was operating to the extreme. The law of chaos was also operating to the extreme. The more dangerous it was, the more potential it could stimulate. Poof! A sword light pierced through Lu Ming's shoulder. But Lu Ming's spiritual body was so strong that it contained a wisp of chaotic qi. It was not weaker than a mid-level heaven spiritual body. The spiritual body immediately squirmed and sealed the wound. It destroyed the destructive power of the sword qi so that it would not cause too much damage. The law of chaos, the law of chaos, these words kept appearing in Lu Ming's mind. His spirit seemed to have entered a mysterious state. The ethereal state of life and death. When facing the fatal threat of the deity, Lu Ming finally entered that state again. Buzz! At this moment, there was an invisible wave in the sky that rushed into Lu Ming's body. That is, the law of chaos. Someone yelled. Lu Ming has broken through. He actually broke through in the battle with the deity. Unbelievable. He is going to break through the law of chaos. Is the battle going to be reversed again? Everyone was shocked. The overlords of the heavenly divine sect even stood up and unleashed their energy. The law of chaos needs some time to adapt to the law of chaos. Deity, kill him now. The great sage of the heavenly divine sect yelled. Lu Ming, be careful. Purple Dragon Valley Master also yelled to remind Lu Ming. Everyone knew that this battle had reached a critical juncture. If Lu Ming could survive the time his body needed to adapt to the law of chaos, he might be able to reverse the battle and kill the deity. Lu Ming's combat power was already terrifying enough. If he broke through again, he might really be able to defeat the deity. Besides, the deity's secret art could increase his strength in a short period of time. But that was only for a short period of time. If that happened, the deity would definitely die. Chapter 1700. Lu Ming, you don't have a chance. Kill. The Son of God shouted and raised his combat strength to the maximum as he charged at Lu Ming. Lu Ming retreated quickly. Lu Ming indeed needed some time to adapt to the law of primal chaos. This was the most dangerous time for him. You can't escape. The Son of God chased after him. Whoosh! Whoosh! A pair of yin-yang fish swords slashed at the Son of God. Get lost! The Son of God slashed out with his sword and sent the yin-yang fish swords flying. He seemed to have seen the difference between the primary and the secondary. He stared at Lu Ming's main body and ignored the secondary body. Whoosh! 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 Concentrated air-piercing sounds could be heard as the second body took out 21 phoenix feather flying swords. They formed a sword formation and stabbed toward the divine sun. Get lost, get lost! The Son of God swept his sword and the sword qi broke through the air. The phoenix feather flying swords were all sent flying. But at that moment, Lu Ming's secondary body appeared in front of Lu Ming's main body and blocked it. At the same time, his hands were waving rapidly. In the air, countless inscriptions appeared and large arrays appeared. There were all kinds of defensive, entrapment, entanglement, and offensive arrays that rushed at the Son of God. Now, the secondary body's main purpose was to stall for time. Trying to stall for time? Break! The Son of God was furious. With a sweep of his sword, the arrays were broken one by one. The secondary body took a few steps, and with every step, countless inscriptions appeared. One after another, large arrays appeared in the air. Although these large arrays couldn't hurt the Son of God, it was good as long as they could delay him a little. The secondary body's hands were constantly waving, and inscription talisman scrolls appeared and were opened by the secondary body. The various arrays in the inscription talisman scrolls shone and fell toward the Son of God. These inscription talisman scrolls were the ones that he usually refined. As for Lu Ming's main body, he retreated quickly and tried his best to adapt to the law of primal chaos. Kill! The Son of God roared. Sword light swept out and countless large arrays collapsed. A sword light pierced toward Ming Lian's secondary body at a terrifying speed. Ming Lian's second body waved his hand and dozens of layers of defense appeared in front of him. However, these defenses were like paper in front of the sword light. They couldn't withstand a single blow and were instantly pierced through. Puff! The sword light pierced through the chest of Ming Lian's second body, and a big hole appeared. Master! In the stands, Lu Xiangxiang cried out in grief. Junior brother Lu Ming. Tian Chui, Xuaningxin, and Long Yuanshan clenched their fists so tightly that their veins bulged. Everyone at the scene was staring at the battle intently. The battle had entered a critical moment. This battle had exceeded everyone's expectations. At first, many people thought that this was a battle without any suspense. They thought that the divine child could easily kill Lu Ming. However, when the battle between the two really began, it was beyond everyone's imagination. This battle was full of suspense. From the beginning, no one could have predicted the outcome. The two of them continuously used their trump cards and engaged in a peak confrontation. Even now, no one could guess who would win in the end. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths, as if they had forgotten to breathe. Some of the youths were even trembling with excitement. This was a battle between geniuses. They were too far away from the clash between geniuses. Puff! Puff! Ming Lian's second body's chest was pierced through, and he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. However, his eyes were still calm. He took a step forward, and dense inscriptions filled the air and a large array appeared. Between his eyebrows, the golden spiritual fire burned fiercely, and the law of array Dao flowed through his body. Above his head, the Tai Chi array diagram emitted a dazzling light. Another Tai Chi array diagram appeared, and it turned into the yin-yang fish sword. The deity's attacks were relentless as streaks of terrifying sword light slashed out. Every single sword light could easily kill an existence in the bright Saint Minor completion. All of the formations had been swept clean. Clang! Clang! The yin-yang fish sword was sent flying. Ming Lian's second body dodged quickly, but he was still swept by the sword light, and one of his arms was sent flying. However, Ming Lian's second body still stood firmly in front of Lu Ming's main body, and tried his best to resist. Ah, get lost! The divine child roared crazily. His secret technique had a limited time, and he could not delay. However, Ming Lian's second body had endless means, and he retreated as he fought, blocking in front of Lu Ming's main body. For a moment, he could not rush over. Puff! Ming Lian's second body was slashed by the sword light again. This time, it was more serious. His waist was cut open, and he was almost completely cut into two. Die! The divine child shouted, intending to completely obliterate Lu Ming's second body before killing Lu Ming's main body. You're the one who's going to die. At this moment, a cold voice sounded, and a figure suddenly appeared in front of the second body, throwing out a punch. Boom! This punch landed on the sword light, and the sword light vibrated. The divine child's body trembled, and he felt a storm of power surging toward him. He could not help but retreat. This figure was Lu Ming's main body. How is this possible? The body needs to adapt to the law of array Dao. How can you adapt so quickly? The divine child shouted in disbelief. How long had it been? Less than a minute, and Lu Ming had already adapted. Others are others, and I am myself. Divine child, you are the one who will die today. Lu Ming said coldly. With a wave of his hand, he put Ming Lian's second body into the mountain river diagram. Although Ming Lian's second body was severely injured, he would recover after a period of rest. Lu Ming had indeed completely adapted now. The law of chaos flowed through every muscle and cell of Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming felt that he was extremely powerful now. Initially, it was impossible for Lu Ming to adapt to it so quickly. However, Lu Ming had refined a wisp of chaotic aura and his body contained chaotic aura. The law of chaos was very similar to chaotic qi, which was why Lu Ming could adapt so quickly. Monster, what a monster! He is different from the rest. Someone exclaimed. So what if he has adapted? So what if he has stepped into the law of chaos? If he doesn't become a saint, he will still be an ant. Kill! The divine child roared and charged at Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch and blasted the divine child's sword radiance. Then, two black sword radiances burst out from his eyes and rushed into the divine child's glabella. Ah! The divine child screamed and his body shook. As Lu Ming had broken through to the third stage of the sage-to-be, the law of chaos, his soul power had also improved. It was equivalent to the soul power of a great success bright sage, which was equivalent to the divine child's. Using the divine sword art would naturally have a great impact on the divine child. 9 seals of the divine gate. Lu Ming made a gesture with his hands, and 9 sealed doors appeared and surrounded him in the middle. Then, a huge chaotic flipping sky seal appeared and suppressed the divine child. With the breakthrough in cultivation, Lu Ming had improved in all aspects, and his combat strength had skyrocketed. Break! The deity endured the excruciating pain in his soul and roared. He slashed out beams of sword light, breaking the 9 sealed doors. However, the chaotic sky-flipping seal was already pressing down. The deity could only block it with his sword. Boom! You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.